Hi everyone, welcome to the next episode of Smash or Pass with me, JayBee,
Hey.
and of course, Smash.
Hello.
So this week we are going to be taking a look at Chill Out Scooby Doo. Now this is a movie that I think I may have only seen once at most. JayBee, how are you with this movie?
I've seen it, a couple of times. I wouldn't say this is one that I've got deep-rooted nostalgia for, but it's definitely one that was on my radar around about this time.
And it's certainly one that I've definitely got a list of questions for our expert Smash. So I'm hoping, is this one that you've seen more than maybe 2 or 3 times?
Oh yes, I have definite nostalgic feelings for this one and stories galore with this one.
Ooh.
Don't worry, this is a deep-rooted one for me.
So
That's going to help. That is going to help.
All of that to look forward to, and I am always hyped when Smash says that they have some stories to tell. So I guess without further ado, I'm going to do my best to break it down into a plot summary, and then we can just kind of go nuts talking about the movie. So, without further ado, the plot for Chill Out Scooby Doo in 2007 goes as follows. So, oh gosh, I've messed it up already. But we have half of the gang split up in the form of Fred, Daphne and Velma, who are in France waiting to go on a vacation after so many escapades involving monsters. However, there's a plot twist in that Shaggy and Scooby have somehow wound up in the Himalayas, and basically stuff happens and they are set out by the abominable snowman or the Yeti. I'm not really sure which one. So it's up to Fred, Daphne and Velma to one, make their way to Shaggy and Scooby, and for Shaggy and Scooby to get to the bottom of who is the abominable snowman. And that was the worst plot summary I think we've done, but
at least you now appreciate me.
Yeah,
you know what it's like.
I've got tears in my eyes after that, I'm not gonna lie.
No.
No, you did great.
You did. So, I guess starting as always with the title. So, Smash, do you want to let us know how you felt about this intro?
Yeah, I actually kind of rewatching it had like a random thought too I wanted to bring up, but for the title, this is, again, I have huge nostalgic feelings for this movie, and I'll get into that when I feel is appropriate, but so this opening title I remember quite a bit, but to be honest, I have to say my feelings for it, I feel like it kind of just feels like a snowy, cold version of the "Where's My Mummy" intro. So I don't know, it was it's fine, again, we're in this era of kind of long opening titles of Scooby Doo, I feel like, and I don't know, I just when rewatching it, I just kind of zoned out and let it do its thing, and I was like, oh, okay, here we go, we're into the movie now.
See, you said something really interesting there, and JayBee was like, when you said it, because I think it's something that neither of JayBee and I had thought, but you're right in what you're saying, that there was a real "Where's My Mummy" vibe to this. There was some, in the titles, you saw these, artifacts and all this kind of thing. And, even some, almost Oriental style, aspects, I want to say, as well.
They do, the same gimmick as well. With the "Where's My Mummy" one, where there's, traps that spring in terms of, spears, crossing, and then the names of the cast are on the spears. They do that here, but with, I guess, skiing posts. Flagpoles.
Mm-hmm.
So there's similar type of visual cues in that as well. But you are right, because the music, it sounds like it should really be something in Samurai Sword. Now, again, we've exposed many times on this show that my geography is absolutely awful. So does anyone know if the Himalayas are near Asia or anything?
Well, I believe, let's hurry and do some geography research, shall we?
Let's see.
Where is man?
My only experience with the Abominable Snowman in animation is literally just Monsters Inc. and that's the extent of my Abominable Snowman knowledge.
So the Himalayan mountain is, well, Okay, so Mount Everest is in the Himalayan mountain, which is in China.
Oh, okay. So that makes a bit more sense about what's going on here. I guess there's a discussion potentially about stereotyping, but I think for now, just focusing on the title, yeah. I mean, I've compared this to a lot of Scooby Doo movies throughout the notes, not giving too much away, but every single time it's like, it's, you know, say like, where's my mummy, but in the snow. It's like, it's like Monster of Mexico, but in the snow. So I think that's going to be a bit of a running theme, certainly with my notes at this point.
Okay, so I guess, like, maybe getting to the start of the movie here. Now, my first question for smASH, because I feel like this is something that you might know, I found it really strange that it starts with Fred, Velma, and Daphne in one place and Shaggy and Scooby in the other. And maybe I'm asking this a bit prematurely, but it was bugging me like throughout the movie.
Are we there quite yet, or is this the cold open? Well, the cold open.
I'll let you do the cold opening then, because I'm like jumping into the question I've got for smASH, because like literally there was one thing on my mind for the first half an hour of this.
Okay, so the cold open. Now, I had a little bit of a geek moment towards the end of the film that I think we'll get into here. But it starts with... I'm bad with the names of these characters, but there's, I guess, a explorer and a professor. And I didn't know this until the end credits, but the professor is Alfred Molina. And to me, that's just amazing because they're the voice, like they are Dr. Octopus in Spider-Man 2. And that's like the only thing I've seen them in besides maybe Abduction when Millie forced me to watch that. But Alfred Molina, like, I don't know, if for nothing else, this cold open has got bonus points from me for that cameo. That is, I just love Alfred Molina. And that's I'm happy. But smASH, what did you think about this freezing cold open?
Okay, so I wanted to bring up my random thought while I was rewatching this. And I guess kind of see what you guys think. I mean, I know the last one we did, Pirates Ahoy, you know, it had the opening credits before the cold open, same as this one, but then like Where's My Mummy? Where's My Mummy didn't necessarily really have a cold open, but you know, it kind of had an opening before the opening credits.
Yeah.
But for me, I prefer if they're going to do a cold open that they do it before the opening credits so that we have some sort of like tense moment of like, ooh, what just happened type of thing. But again, it kind of depends on how it flows too. But for me personally, I kind of felt like this one, I more so think it would have transitioned really cool to have the cold open and then lead into the opening credits. And then, you know, transition to the rest of the gang in Paris type thing. But for the cold open, I will say this, I feel like is almost a different one because we're almost getting the motive, which ended up, spoiler alert, not being the motive, you know, like super early in the movie. And so we're like, oh, you know, it kind of is a red herring cold opening of like, oh, okay, here's the motive for the bad guy type thing. But yeah, I wanted to just ask you guys, how do you guys prefer your openings? Does it even matter to you guys?
I don't think it matters. I don't know. For me personally, I wouldn't say it mattered too much, but I can see why you thought it more in this movie, I think. For me personally, I was asking so many questions throughout the titles in terms of like, what's this about? I don't feel like this fits with this. What's going on here kind of thing. Like, you know, like I was saying before, like with the artifacts and with the carvings, and to then see the snow, it's not two things that I'd associate together because some of the things I was seeing I'd like associate with Asia and stuff, and then the cold weather, I'm more like, okay, I don't associate that with there. And to me, there was some things in my head that just weren't quite fitting together. But then, as you said, if you'd had that cold opening beforehand, it can almost add some context to the titles, and like you say, it can build up that suspense as well, because it certainly seemed I mean, we've seen it a lot in like Cyber Chase, for example, where you have a really suspenseful kind of opening, you meet the villain, it's really dark, and then you cut to a bright and happy mystery machine going down a road on the way to, you know, their unknowing kind of distress for the next like hour and a half or whatever. But like this one especially just felt different, I think, in that not only was it, okay, here it's a bit dark and scary, here it's light and cheerful, it is just such a stark contrast from like the weather, like more or less the other side of the world kind of thing. I feel like you say, maybe the titles would have fit nicely in the middle just to break that up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I passed this movie, I think, but when I think back to my ideal opening credits, I actually think it might be Monster of Mexico. You know, you kind of eased into things with music that isn't so heavy-handed, and then we're introduced to a setting that's largely pleasant, you know, like, I guess typical what you'd associate with a detective opening before, you know, the deed happens. Like, you've got normal, you know, you get introduced to the characters that you're going to meet throughout the movie, and then the monster shows up, and then you kind of introduced with the credits. At the end, then it would reveal the title. Whereas, literally with this one, the first note that I wrote on here is very quick to reveal the title, because I'm pretty sure you just see like 2 drops of snow, and then it's chill out, Scooby Doo, and then it goes into all the action, and it's like, okay, I don't quite know what that's about. It definitely got me, but I wouldn't say it took away from anything in that. If it did reveal it after the cold open, I don't think I would have thought that it was one of the better openings, but I definitely did notice it. Kind of, I don't know, I don't feel like I've remembered a lot of them, I guess, play by play. I just kind of react to them and experience them through the new lens of, I guess, a reviewer or a critic, I want to say, or just in terms of making notes. But yeah, it definitely got me there. But they could have done a great cinematic if it was done after the fight. Like, you have to imagine maybe a situation where the professor went into the snow, was ambushed by the Yeti, and then all you could hear was like a scream, and they could like pan over to one of the mountains, and then that's when you could get your kind of more stylized or not stylized opening credits. But again, the parallels continue, because I was instantly thinking in this scenario, and it does happen earlier with, what's the name? I'm skipping ahead a bit. I don't want to get this wrong because I wrote this down, but is the woman in this called Minga? Because in fact,
I just saw her name too.
Minga's like an insult, right? Like,
let me see what she's called, because I feel like I've written this down.
It sounds like Minga, whatever
Isn't it Ginga?
Ginga.
No, that's not it.
Yeah, I think so.
Or is it Ming-Na? Like, you know, Agent May from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Ming-Na Wen? There was also
Minga.
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 Minga. So it is Minga. Huh, that's kind of mad. Whoa.
Sorry, I'm just opening the notebook.
Yeah. So they kind of do this fake out kidnapping, and that kind of was what I was thinking about when the professor goes into the snow and just calls out, because of course that's what we saw Manu do with the Wiki Tiki, that's what Velma did with, you know, the stone swap out, and I believe it happens one more time, but I can't remember where. Ooh. Who was it? Well, I guess that the brother of the main guy from Monster of Mexico does it, but just because he was too scared to save people, not out of genuine, you know, monsterliness, if that's a word. But, Millie, what were you thinking about that? Like, how did you respond to these 2 characters? Because my main issue stems with the fact that we simply, at least early on, don't have characters to really care about.
I mean, I feel like we've seen a lot of cold openings where we don't know the characters, so it didn't bother me really that much, I don't think. Like, in any one that you can think of. For example, you've been talking about Monster of Mexico a lot. In the cold opening, we didn't know who they were then. We just knew that there was an innocent boy having fun.
Yeah, and that's kind of it, though. There was, it was clearly a family setting there, so there was a parent and a kid and a dog, and, you know,
Yeah,
you kind of have to
I guess the dynamic maybe between the two characters, if that's what you were getting at, is
just
kind of
the
like...
warm feeling that the kid wanted to care for the dog and the father wanted to care for both of them. Whereas here it seems like there's just a poor, like, there's like a scared person being led into a dangerous scenario by someone that isn't really money like hungry at this stage, but you definitely do get the vibe that they are after, you know, the glory of discovering what there is to discover, and so it's just unsettling rather than endearing. So smASH, what did you think about these two characters in particular?
You know, just with how they introduced them, I really just, I don't know how to explain. Like, I can't talk. The professor guy, like, they instantly made him unlikable, and so I was like, I don't really care about you, you know? Like, I don't care for your story. I don't care what you're doing because you're just, like, rude right at the beginning. And the other guy, I felt like we didn't know what he even was doing besides being some sort of assistant to this professor. That, again, I don't know. This cold open just, I have to kind of agree with you guys that I just didn't, like, really have any feelings for these guys. I'm like, I don't really need to follow them anymore. Like, I don't, they didn't do anything to make you, like, that interested in their story or want to keep following them, and so when they did eventually come back, I was just like, oh, I mean, good thing you survived, but, like, how exactly do you pertain to any of this?
Yeah, and it is definitely confusing as well, because at least before we know background of everything, it is a bit like, the sort of Indiana Jones and their sidekick. You'd assume that they'd been together on this journey for a while, like maybe the guy didn't live in that little village, they just travelled from somewhere to get to an exhibition or an expedition site. And so to hear the guy saying, no, I don't want to go up here, I don't want to, like, you shouldn't go there, Professor, it's a bit frustrating. It's like, well, how have you climbed perhaps one of the biggest mountain, like, ranges or whatever in the world, and then when you're nearly, at the location going, yeah, you know what, I don't think we should go there, this is a bad place to go. And it's like, well, it just didn't really make much sense. But the credit I can give this cold open is I love how they introduced the abominable snowman, especially that shot of them climbing up the mountain, because that is literally so reminiscent for me of the times that I'd come back from school and type in on YouTube, Bigfoot sightings, abominable snowman sightings, UFO sightings. It's like that type of footage you'd see, not quite a silhouette or an image, but like a in the distance action shot, and it just made me think about that, which added to this kind of mythology, especially for me anyway. But I guess starting with Millie, what did you feel about the first look about this adorable snowman?
I quite like it. Like, I do think that I find them one of, again, there's some villains that I really like. So the last one, Pirates Ahoy, I kind of liked how the villains were maybe a bit more intimidating there. Whereas perhaps one's more like Alien Invasion, like, I don't know, I found that as soon as they weren't silhouettes, they actually weren't that scary. This is one where I was a bit like, okay, I can understand why they're scared here, that kind of thing. It certainly was one that certainly seemed a bit more intimidating.
Yeah.
And a bit more, and I know that we kind of touched upon that, like, we've been in a bit of a time with Scooby Doo the last few episodes where it's about legends and things, but this is, again, something that a lot of people believe. So it kind of has a new real element to it.
Yeah, I'd say that. And
it's not just like, oh, it's a ghost flying around and, we know that they always unmask ghosts. Like, I don't know. To a lot of people, there is the possibility of finding this. Like you said, as a child, you were searching for footage of somebody finding, like, the abominable snowman and things. So, yeah, I guess that adds a new level to it as well.
I mean, I guess I'm very, very curious to hear smASH's opinion of this, because obviously I think smASH knows a lot about future monsters that are coming up in the series that I have no idea about. So I guess the general question would be, how does this monster reveal stack up in comparison to, I guess, not only the ones we've had before, but the ones coming up in your mind?
The reveal itself, I remember as a kid, kind of was, I guess, fascinating, because it's like, ooh, it's this big monster, and I mean, just because a monster's big doesn't necessarily always mean that it's scary or good, so to say, in Scooby Doo. It's always exciting when you get a big monster, because it's like, ooh, how are they going to deal with this one? Like the Loch Ness Monster we had, or whatever, or the Monster of Mexico. And so, this was kind of the next big creature, I guess you could say, that we've had. And so I don't know. I almost feel like, I mean, I get kind of the vibe they were going with. I guess, wish the music was a little different with his reveal, to be a little more eerie, I guess. Otherwise, I do kind of like that they kind of kept, his full reveal until later, but I will admit, I kind of feel like it got less and less cool and intimidating as the movie went on. I don't know, that's just me personally, though.
There are examples where there's one point in my notes, and it's a little while away. Yeah, it's when they're at the weather station, but it's literally just the snowman arrives. It goes from like the abominable snowman, the scary monster, to just the snowman's there.
The snowman.
I mean, I am so conflicted with this movie, and I'll just say that right now. Out of all the ones we've covered before, this is the only one that I'm going into not knowing fully if I'm gonna smash or pass it, because I just don't know. But what I will say, in terms, I just don't know where to put myself with this, because on one hand, I do kind of feel like it is like a reskin version of a lot of them. And I've said this with so many, it's like they've put loads of effort into one, and like maybe like thought about a couple more last minute so that they make the annual release and then focus on another one. And with this, I very much get the sense that this was very much rushed to make that quota, but at the same time, this is the only one that's been directly teased in the last movie. Like, unless it's an absolute coincidence that Fred's dad was like, oh, like, do you want to go to the Himalayas and see the abominable snowman? Like, maybe the writers were just like, oh, what do we do? Have we done? Oh no, we did that in this TV show, we did that in that movie. Oh, look what Fred says in this. Let's just do that. Like, I don't know if that was the case, but I just don't know. I don't get the impression that it was planned, but at the same time, it seems too much of an obvious Easter egg at the end of the last movie to not have been planned. So I don't know, like, if there's any behind the scenes information about this movie, because I noticed that there were no behind the scenes things to do with the production of the film.
There are a few interesting stories with this one that I know. First, I want to quickly say about the abominable snowman that I kind of forgot to bring up. When I think of the abominable snowman, I always think of this, like this creature, this version of it. But also second, his roar is just like, that sound, his roar is just been ingrained in me, and like, it was one of those things I didn't realize until I was like, okay, next time we're doing Chill Out Scooby Doo, and I was just like, oh, the roar of the abominable snowman, that's what it should have been called. But anyway, so interesting kind of behind the scenes stuff with this movie. So Hanna-Barbera, who is the production company that created Scooby Doo originally, and then Warner Brothers bought him out. I think sometime in the 90s, I want to say. Anyway, so it was, I believe, William Hanna and Joseph Barbera who like founded the company, the production studio, and so unfortunately William had passed away quite earlier, but this was the last Scooby Doo project that Joseph Barbera helped on before his passing. So it was the last Scooby Doo really anything to have one of the original creators work on it at all. But not only that, the artist who designed Scooby Doo, which I'm gonna biff his name, it's like Iowa Takamoto.
Yeah, I think I wrote that down. Yeah, Iowa Takamoto.
Yeah.
Dedication.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, he passed away during the production of this movie, and so they dedicated the movie to him, while Joseph Barbera had his dedication in a Tom and Jerry movie that released, around the same time.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
So
That's
anyway.
actually really cool. And I like those kind of facts, and again, like, it's just, I don't know, it's always sad when, like, a major person within the development doesn't get to see it through. Certainly with the design element, but I wouldn't imagine that would have impacted much about the overall production, apart from maybe with the kind of Hanna-Barbera thing. I don't know how hands-on they would have been, but again, I just feel that before I don't know, I'd imagine that all the storyboard and stuff would have been figured out before the voice cast even sit down to do their lines.
My one thing is what I noticed when Joseph passed away is they suddenly, I don't know if they felt like they just all of a sudden had a lot more freedom, or they were like, we can take Scooby-Doo in a different direction for a little bit, but like as soon as Joseph passed away, the movies, and this will carry on for like the next two, I believe, all of a sudden just went heavy Shaggy and Scooby misadventures, and it starts with this one.
Yeah, see, that's something that I wanted to ask you about, and I'm hoping JayBee's at a point with his notes where I can go on to the Paris thing.
Yeah, I can go into Paris.
I found it really, really strange that the movie starts and you've got Fred, Velma and Daphne in one place and Shaggy and Scooby in the other, and I feel like I could have got past that if they were reunited in the first 5 minutes, the first 10 minutes. But I feel like we were sat there for an hour watching a Shaggy and Scooby movie, but Fred, Velma and Daphne had already been contracted in, so they were just trying to do something with them.
Yeah, exactly. And something I wanted to know about all that, I just like rewatched this movie to talk about it. I noted that Fred finally says, "Looks like we have a mystery on our hands." 40 minutes into the movie.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Wow. It's different. See, my question to you was gonna be, was there something going on? Was one of them ill and they had to rewrite it so that it was a completely different style of movie? But from what you've explained, like you said, it's maybe they were just, we want to bring back just the Shaggy and Scooby vibe like we saw in the earlier cartoons and things.
But I would say that as much hate as this could potentially get from the Scooby community, I kind of don't feel like Shaggy and Scooby work without them to kind of be reunited in like a common goal of either like having a conflict with someone or being like, almost like second and third wheels to someone. Like, I think Scrappy is perfect in the original movies, in like Go School and stuff, because he's such a great personality that they have to either rein in or look after or something. And even in something like Scoob, the goofiness and insecurity of the younger Blue Falcon, even though it causes conflict with the two of them at times, you kind of need something extra to distract from that. Whereas in this, you've just got this La France guy, or this I don't know what he's doing, but I just don't feel like it's enough to carry the first bit of the film.
I agree with what you were saying there, because I was thinking Scrappy as well, because when you're like, okay, I don't know if the Scooby community is going to like this, but I just didn't think that this was enough. And then I was like, I don't think the Scooby community is going to like this, but it was missing Scrappy. And then you said it, and I was a bit like, okay, yeah. Because, like you said, it was almost like, okay, so Shaggy and Scooby had just dropped in a situation, quite literally. Whereas at least when Scrappy's there, it makes sense that he's kind of reckless and lacks consideration and just runs into things, and that's how stuff happens. Whereas with this, it was just like they're uncomfortably in a situation that they don't want to be in. And kind of bringing it back to the kind of moment in Paris, like it's almost like they felt the gang needed to compensate for that, like for the change in that normally Fred, Velma and Daphne are like, anything for a mystery, we need to solve the mystery, we need to do this, we need to do the right thing. Whereas Daphne was like, no, it's a holiday, stop Velma, just stop, don't read that. And it's like, we don't see Daphne really do that. That's what Shaggy and Scooby do, but it's literally like they've had to compensate, so they were like, oh, it's okay, we'll just make Daphne different. It just didn't seem like cohesive, I don't think.
It definitely is like new, different, I guess, interactions and personalities that we've seen of them. Like, I definitely feel like Fred really starts to kind of go more comedy driven in this movie. I mean, I know we've kind of seen a slow progression of it, but I feel like he, like in this beginning, he's definitely just like, I'm not listening, I'm on my new phone. Guys, did you see my new phone and stuff? And Velma's just like, I feel like Velma was just like, who am I on vacation with? Like,
I guess a part of me did appreciate that to an extent, because I think Fred does a really good job being funny in that role. And also, like, I think it would have been the easiest thing in the world to make Daphne be the one obsessed with like snapping photos and calling and trying out new things and just making her over the top like that. But the fact that it's Fred who then fits the role, like in all the other ones, he's trying out something new when they're on holidays, either trying to learn a language or get accustomed to something. So I'm grateful that it was Fred that was kind of more obsessed with these gadgets. And again, you've kind of got to imagine, like, a part of me is thinking about, say, stuff like Mystery Incorporated and future movies that I am aware of where Fred's trying to like tech out the mystery machine and build elaborate technological traps. So it makes sense that he'd be fascinated by like geolocations and stuff.
See, I feel like I might be skipping ahead in the movie, but, and again, you two might completely disagree with me. But not only do I disagree with what they did to Daphne, making her the one that's like, I don't want to do a mystery, I don't like what they did to Fred either. Like, the only part I remember from the, other than the last 10 minutes where I was like, okay, here's my trap. Other than that, it's literally just like they make him look stupid. Like, I can't say this word, I can't say this word. And my entire characterization throughout the movie is literally just going to be that I can't say this word. And it's like, I feel like they're overcompensating for the fact that Shaggy and Scooby aren't with them. Like I said, we've got Daphne who's like, I don't want to solve mysteries, I don't want to do that. You've got Fred that suddenly IQ seems to have like dropped in half, when obviously it's normally like Shaggy and Scooby that are making some of the kind of more like intellectual mistakes kind of thing. It's normally that Fred's the kind of go-to, like Fred and Velma like tend to be the more go-to in terms of working things out and like intelligence and stuff. It just seemed very alien to me that he was kind of been ridiculed as not knowing and not being able to say something.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a recurring joke, and even Velma to an extent gets caught up in it, and that was actually a very funny moment. But I don't know, I think you're right, and I think it could all be fixed if the gang, like you say, just got together that little bit sooner, because you see them finding out where Shaggy and Scooby are quite quickly because of Fred's phone, which makes it useful, which is nice. Again, I don't think it really pops up again until maybe the very end, if at all. But it's then going on to Shaggy and Scooby's kind of escapade. And I feel like this is just a missed opportunity in and of itself because, you know, Shaggy and Scooby are notorious in the kind of Scooby Gang for being set out as live bait. And so if they got a bit more famous or a bit more well known at this point, it would make sense for a hunter like this LaFrance guy to kidnap them with the sole purpose of using them as live bait. Because it's like, who am I going to use to catch this monster? Well, of course I'm going to use the most, like, you know, famous live bait in the world. But it's just like, why do they take Shaggy and Scooby? Like, did they just find two randoms?
My question for Smash, if he knows this, is does it ever explain why they travelled separately? Because in every Scooby Doo movie we have watched so far, or at least it seems that way, you get them all travelling together and then the mystery machine's airlifted in and you go from there. We've never, I personally don't think we've ever seen them need to travel separately.
That's, yeah, it really is so weird that they, like, travel separately, and it really isn't explained why they didn't go together or why Shaggy and Scooby decided to take this sketchy plane, you know, besides the food. But, like, yeah, the whole situation just feels weird.
It does. It does seem quite strange. Like, and just like we've mentioned geography already, but just the fact that they managed to go so far out of the way yet nobody realizes is insane. Like, I'm gonna guess that from Paris to China, which is where we established they ended up, would be like 7 hours on a plane.
But it's just a bit disheartening as well, because I understand Shaggy and Scooby, like, just being in love with the food and then just, like, drifting off cartoon style, like, floating in the air towards the scent of it. Like, I understand that, but it almost, like, directly makes it seem like it's not that, like, they're all friends, that they're all a team. It's that Shaggy and Scooby are just their own friendship group that has latched onto this. Like, just the fact that, you know, Velma, who's meant to be the smart one, goes on this trip and doesn't once think, you know, where's Shaggy, where's Scooby? Because if they flew there, you'd have to assume that, like, Scooby, unless he, like, puts on the grandma suit again, he can't go on these on these flights. So there's more to it than just, oh, Scooby's not here. It's like, oh, normally we go to, you know, the pet checkout center or something, and it's like, how did that happen? Unless they took a private jet or something, I don't see how that's. And even then, it just seems like they've made some elaborate scenario with the purpose of making sure that the gang were separate, and I don't think it does the film any favors, and it certainly doesn't do the opening any favors.
So random about geography. If they were to fly from Paris to Mount Everest, it would be a 9-hour flight. And then how they drove from Paris to Mount Everest, that is 114.5-hour drive.
Insane.
Like,
I mean, we
and then he just acted like,
see how bad that is in context.
Well, they just acted like they did it in just, you know, like a day, and I'm like, excuse you.
Can't even fly there in that time, really? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Wait, see, this is another thing. Like, it says in my notes, why Paris? Why did they have to make it somewhere that was so far away that it does then make it that unbelievable? If it was just the next country over, it's a bit like, okay. Again, I've got questions, but at least I wonder if
it's also the, like, contrast of, like, ooh, freezing cold up in the mountains to sunny, you know, in Paris or what, you know? Like, I wonder if they were trying to make a weird contrast, but again, why exactly Paris?
Yeah, I mean, Hawaii would have been the perfect contrast to that.
Yeah.
I don't know. On one hand, though, if it was just another scenario where they were invited to the Himalayas by a relative, I think we would have just said we've seen this before. So it is good to an extent that they have switched it up a bit. It's just, I think they could have done it a little bit better.
Or like you said, if they really wanted the contrast, it could just be that they've had to fly separately because of Scooby, and one of them's just not set off yet. So say they're still in Hawaii from a previous mystery or something, and they land in the snow. That in itself's contrast enough, and it's that they're on the next plane, which is how they get there so quickly.
But again, why did it have to be like Shaggy and Scooby that were the ones to get lost? Like, they can have their mishap, but I feel like they had the perfect scenario in the last movie. Say it could have opened with Fred, Daphne, and Velma being invited ahead of time to maybe surprise Shaggy and Scooby with something, and he could have brought Fred's dad back because they invited them at the end of the last one, and then maybe when Shaggy and Scooby had to get there a bit later, that was when they ran into the abominable snowman. Like, they had ways to go about things that wasn't this weird thing that they decided to do.
I mean, I'm going to take this on an entirely perhaps different tangent, because I guess the part that we're on is Shaggy and Scooby on the plane. Now, we were listening to the Nikki Blake podcast, like, on the way to work this week, and one thing they were talking about is the food that Shaggy and Scooby eat. And JayBee and I were saying, how funny would it be to do a smash or pass where you try the food that Shaggy and Scooby are supposed to eat and say whether it's a smash or pass. And the reason that I found that really funny, then watching this movie after the fact, is they have a pineapple and peanut butter pizza. And I was like, after we've just said that that would make a hilarious smash or pass trying this food, literally the next thing we watch, something turns up.
I have always wanted to do some sort of like video or something of trying Shaggy and Scooby's weird foods and stuff, and the only thing I've really tried, I tried making Scooby snacks from a recipe in the Scooby Doo encyclopedia. They didn't turn out great. I feel like I want to try again or try a different recipe. But then I've also recently tried chocolate covered corn on the cob, and that wasn't horrible. I wouldn't say I'd eat it again for fun, but yeah, I think that's a great idea. I've always wanted to do that.
I mean, I'm pretty sure at some point in my childhood, because of Scooby Doo, I actually ate a dog biscuit just to like try. I know that's the weirdest thing to admit on the internet, but I actually genuinely think I did do that. And I'm saying, you know, I do remember I definitely did that.
There used to be years ago, like a dog treat biscuit type thing that was actually called Scooby Snacks. And I'm so sad they don't, at least I can't find them anymore, because I mean, I know we have like the Scooby Doo little graham cracker type things that everybody calls Scooby Snacks, but I'm like, no, there was an actual dog one, and I don't know whatever happened to it.
I mean, that's a shame. Like, even if, like, you know, money wasn't an issue and whatever, like, old vintage items, even if you have to pay an extortionate price for, you can probably get your hands on. But with, like, food products as well, like, the moment that expiry date's passed and, like, it's not in production anymore, unless someone's, like, deep frozen it or something, that's just gone forever. And it's like, oh, why? And they did some stuff like that. I think they had old cereal back in the day. I think I tried some.
Yeah, there was cereal.
But not all. I mean, that was back when I was having this, like, I don't know if they probably still do them for kids, but I don't really have them anymore. But they used to be the coolest toys with cereal.
Yeah. Yeah, I have these Kellogg's Scooby Doo DVDs. There was a time when they released these Toon Tour Mysteries Scooby Doo DVDs, and there were 5 to collect, and I got 4 of them in cereal boxes. And then I believe in a different country, at least, they had released some What's New Scooby Doo DVDs inside cereal boxes for a time. So I miss those.
That's goals. Like, I love that so much. I think the only cereal collection I ever really went nuts with was they did like these Looney Tunes. I don't want to call them like hoppers, but they were like discs where if you folded them inside out and dropped them on the floor, they'd jump back up at you.
Oh yes, yes.
I love them so much. They were my jam, definitely. But yeah, definitely a food-based Smash or Pass would be interesting.
I mean, the pineapple and peanut butter pizza one came up. Would you do that, JayBee?
I mean, I've eaten. What was I eating? In that challenge video we did, was it chili?
It was vampire revenge chutney.
Yeah, and that was enough for me. I don't think I could eat anything. Maybe I don't even think pineapple really belongs on pizza, to be honest.
Can't start that debate.
No, I don't know.
Don't start that debate.
What does Smash do?
My biggest turnoff is the peanut butter, just because I'm not a peanut butter fan. I don't even eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. So the pineapple doesn't bug me, but it's the peanut butter.
See, I like peanut butter.
You love peanut butter.
I love pineapple even on pizza. I just don't know how I feel about them together.
I always wanted to try a chocolate pizza. Like I used to play Club
Ooh,
Penguin,
yeah.
and you could make chocolate pizzas and stuff there, and I always wanted one of them.
To be fair, I got a burger today that had mango in it. Can it get weirder than that?
Ooh,
Mango?
though.
Yeah,
That's kind of
that
interesting.
jerk chicken thing had mango in
I
it.
reckon I'd like that though, because that's like a bit of coldness, almost like liquid. Like sometimes when I'm thirsty, I'd just eat like a watermelon because it's like a 2-in-1.
Oh
I
yeah.
actually want to try that.
Well, that took an interesting turn. That was different from the
regular schedule episode.
Yeah.
I mean, one day, who knows? Who knows?
I mean, I guess going back to things, they're about to get dropped from the plane, which again, I kind of feel is a bit like, is it necessary? Like, could they not have just landed the plane and it's like, oh, well, you're here?
I mean, it's kind of fun though, but it doesn't make sense in the context that it's saying, because you'd think that if it was going with the narrative that they're just meant to be live bait, then they hover around for a bit, wait till you think you see the Yeti, then chuck them on top of it, but they just kind of go, right, we're just gonna throw you off now. For no
on the
reason.
off chance that this thing actually exists, let's throw you out for plane.
Yeah, because if obviously it's a cartoon, they're not meant to be mortally injured, but if they were injured from that, then this guy's plans just failed, unless...
I mean, realistically, like, they wouldn't be in a position to be able to be, like, running around a mountain after that.
No, it would just be...
Like, they
that's
physically
horrific.
climb the mountain after this to get to the weather station. They would not be able to do that.
I'm not just rolling around. But then where do we go from there? Okay, so we've got a lot of, I want to say, cuts in the start where they flip from character to character. Again, that's kind of an issue where there's like 3 storylines going on at the moment. But I think now we get to the professor's back with, what's the name? Pemba. And that's
Pepper.
also when we're introduced again, introduced to Minga. So we've got the Professor, Pemba, and Minga. And again, this dynamic just seems like, and this is what I don't like. There's like 3 storylines going on. There's the storyline with the gang, the storyline with Shaggy and Scooby, and the storyline with the Professor's group. And the issue that I have with that is, for all this Hunter guy, I don't really like them. I know I like Shaggy and Scooby, and I know I also like the rest of the gang. But then there's this kind of outlier storyline going on at the start, and it's like, I would rather be watching any other story than this one. Can we please like see what everyone else is doing? And that's kind of the issue. But Minga is someone that I want to talk about, because they obviously go on to be quite essential to the character. And I'm going to do something a bit interesting. I'd like to hear Smash's opinion on Minga first, and then I think I want to go last, because I think I might be a bit controversial in there.
She just seems like, for like the whole movie, there's just no point that she's there. You know, she's like just being the like annoying little sibling type thing, and but And I know, as you guys brought up, like, she has a very vital role eventually, but I'm like, for like the whole movie, it's like, I feel like she's there and she's not there. She's there and she's not there, which again makes sense in the end, but I'm just like, they didn't give her enough screen time, enough background to even really care about her. It was another gosh, what was her name from Aloha?
Molly?
Snooki.
Oh,
Snooki. She was another Snooki where I just didn't care for her. You know, by the end of the movie, I still didn't care for her.
No, I think you're right. I agree with a lot of what you're saying. She just didn't have the screen time. You didn't understand the full story. I feel like she started off, I guess at the scene that we're at now, she starts off quite sweet and innocent, and it's like, okay, well, if you play this right, this could almost balance out some of the negativity towards the professor. Because I guess there was a lot of negativity towards him, and then she was trying to be this really innocent character. The Pemba was like, okay, I need to protect her, you know, she can't do this. But then ultimately, and again, skipping right to the end of the movie, complete spoilers and all the rest of that kind of stuff, but
yay.
At the end, I was literally like, who can this be? Everyone's here. We've seen everybody. Oh, wait, no, we've not. Oh, there's literally one person left. And then they proceeded to wait another 10 minutes to reveal it. But this was the first Scooby Doo movie where I was confidently sat there when we were watching this like 2 days ago going, I know who it is. I know who it is. Because it was literally like everyone else was there. And granted, she was invisible and forgotten about, which is why it took me maybe a little bit longer than it should have. But once you realised, like, she was that forgettable that's what the entire story was based on, the fact that you'd forget who she was.
Yep.
And so you'd be sat there like, who can it be? Who can it be?
Wait, this was the first Scooby-Doo movie that you figured out who it was before the end?
Yeah.
You didn't get all the Let's Play Ball things from the Cyber Jave?
Not when I first watched it, no. I was about 6, okay?
Well, first time, yeah.
I know I'm brilliant, but I'm not that brilliant, okay?
No, I mean, that's a fair comment, although I am glad that I did ask both of you to go first, because I actually think that Mingo may very well be one of my favourite characters in this movie, if nothing more than by default, because I feel that I really like stories where I can latch onto a character with good intentions, like someone to root for, and I feel that the gang just want to save Shaggy and Scooby, and I buy into that, but like the reason why they're separated is either shared negligence or laziness. You know, the professor either wants to get glory for a discovery or money through these crystals that we see at the end. And it's like, and the older brother Pemba either is patronizing Mingo or, you know, is protective. So that's all he really cares about at that moment. But it just seems that, for me, Mingo was the only character that had, I guess, intentions that were positive. Like, I just want to meet this DJ. Like, you know, this like DJ has been giving me some happiness in this like mountain area.
Oh, God.
And I just feel that they're the only one that they want something in the movie, and it isn't like greed or stupidity. And I'm kind of like, okay, I can root for that.
I'd say there's a little bit of stupidity there. I mean, like you said, there's maybe a story that you can back, but at the same time, why did she think the snow monster would make them stay? Surely they'd be scared and leave.
I mean, okay, there is going to be a bit of a weirdness to it, because you'd imagine that she did do some, I guess, research, knowing that this is a guy that gets obsessed with spooky things.
But I mean, like, we've talked at the end of movies before, like, the Loch Ness, the end of that movie was one we focused on a lot, like, was there really justice kind of thing. With this one, she'd created this entire, like, threatening creature, and everyone's like, oh, where can they go on the first date? Oh, the professor, you're awful. You're evil. The guy was a bit greedy. I'll give him that. He was greedy.
He did have armed explosives. Like, I mean, let's not forget about that.
Still, like, since when is it like an unmasking and you're like, oh, they're gonna go on a date? It just was strange.
My thing was, like, why couldn't she have just, like, lurked about? Like, why did she have to go scare people and chase them and stuff? Like, why couldn't she just make tracks in the snow and kind of creep around and whatever? You know, like, why did she stay? Like, she could have stayed in the shadows and not threatened anyone, and then it would have been like, oh, okay, you didn't really do anything. You were just, you know, trying to get some attention. But at this point, it's like, well, okay, can we really say, oh, that's so cute? You're, like, trying to make people fall off this huge mountain for love. Like, really?
Yeah, like, you know, permanent damage would have been caused if this wasn't an animated thing, and, like, you know, yeah, it's fine. But, like you were saying, I feel like the reason that she, I don't know, maybe the reason that she wanted to create the snow monster and didn't feel like she could just talk to them was that she was, like, heavily, like, guarded and stuff. Like, her brother was always not letting her go up the mountain. But that's just absolute, like, lunacy. Like, how is it that she had time to climb about the mountain as the abominable snowman, but not as herself? Because it does kind of take that narrative for me that she, like, that her brother just watches her. So she's like, oh, I can't do this. But how could she do that on a more extreme scale if she couldn't do it just as her?
Well, and I feel like making a snowman creature, like, you know, lurk about and whatever, and stories spread, is just gonna make the brother even more, you know, worried and be like, no, you can't go out now. Like, you know, I'm like, you're not helping your issue.
No, I don't think she's either.
Yeah, she should have just paid someone else to be the snowman and had, like, one scenario in front of Pemba where she just, like, decked it and, like, made Pemba think that she's capable. Like,
oh gosh,
I think that would have been funny. Although I don't know, I thought that there was gonna be a bit of a twist to this, a bit of a negative, nasty twist that I'm glad didn't happen when I first saw this, where, you know, basically Minga fell for, is it Dell?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because of his, like, kind of smooth DJ voice. And then when she saw him, she was just gonna go, oh, this guy's just a nerd that sits down eating Cheetos in front of his computer, like, in the basement 24/7. Like, let's not. Mm-hmm. But that didn't happen, which I was grateful for.
Yeah.
But I honestly convinced myself that that was gonna be the narrative that they would take. But I'm glad that they didn't.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so then I think we have another, like, cut between groups, which you were talking about, JayBee. In that, if I'm correct, this is where Shaggy and Scooby land in the monastery. That's where I'm at.
I think you're right.
Because JayBee and I were, like, almost laughing at this stage, because obviously they land in the monastery, and then the guy's like, you found our most secret chamber, and it's literally through the first door.
Yeah. I'm hyped because the High Llama is James Hong, and I only primarily know them as the Goose Dad from Kung Fu Panda. But again, I'm getting so hyped about the amount of voices I'm recognizing.
Yeah.
I'm happy.
But no, we were laughing for a good, like, amount of time at just, you found the most guarded chamber, and it's through one door. No guards or anything. It's just one door.
My thing with him was that, like, they crashed down, you know, from the sky, and then the others came running in, and he was like, get out, like, you shouldn't be here. And then he just, you know, Scooby just starts messing with stuff, and he just comes down and is like, so, how's your day? And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
It's like they had, like, a script, like, one, act as dramatic as possible. If that doesn't work, just invite them in. They've passed the test.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then I guess with that storyline proceeding, honestly, I think what's kind of funny about some of these movies is just when you don't know the characters' names, what I write in my notes, because I've then just put the gingerbeard creep arrives.
Yes, some guy. I mean, this is clearly this movie's equivalent of making a character that's a bit out there and a bit bombastic. Like even the last movie, I'd say it was probably Fred's mum, and then in like previous movies, you had your Lesters, Del from Loch Ness Monster, who of course returns here as well. But this was just, I don't see anything that's endearing with this guy. He's just there. Like he's kind of annoying, to be honest.
I thought that too.
I just feel that the one thing that this movie is getting wrong so far is the side characters. Now, it's obviously chill out Scooby Doo. It's not like chill out Minga or something. But like, just the characters around, like surrounding this movie, just aren't doing the same.
Yeah.
They're just not. I just think something has gone wrong with this so far. But again, the voice cast, the guests that I do recognize, are kind of pulling me through some of them, at least at the moment. But then I feel like the two that I do recognize, I don't know if they were like too expensive, but they just disappear. And we're stuck with this hunter guy for like the whole film.
And then there's like that straight away. There's another cutscene where we go, or like a cut between where we go back to like Fred, Velma, and Daphne, and that's when they're getting in the mystery machine to go and find Shaggy and Scooby, which is some of what we've talked about already. It's like the Fred not being able to say abominable thing.
Yeah, it's like abdominal.
The ridiculous kind of like
subliminal
travel thing where they've got 24 hours and it would take in reality about 5 days.
But why is this the case? Like, abominable isn't so difficult as Chupacabra, is it? Or Yowie Yahoo?
I think it's relatively difficult. I think I struggled with abominable when I was quite young. Like, I think it's the repeated syllable that
abominable
can cause some problems.
I think abdominable that they say is more difficult to say than abominable. Because ab is like ab, whereas ubd is weird. And they say the abdominal snowman. And I feel like abdominal is a word that you can't say by accident. I don't know, that's probably a weird thing to say. But I do like the scene. Like, I like how they are being a bit, like, funnier with it. Because if they were completely devoid of personality, then it's just like, right, we either need to see Shaggy and Scooby's storyline get resolved, or this is just gonna flop so quickly.
Yeah, and which is why there's, I think, another cutscene again really quickly, where we head back to Shaggy and Scooby. They're climbing up the mountain to get to the weather station. There's like the huge like box full of Scooby snacks.
Well, I'll be honest, I think maybe a part of me being a bit more negative about this film is the fact that I think it's got to the stage where it's, I don't want to say it's depressed me, but it's contrasting with what's making me happy at the moment. Like, we're just going into like the summer and you associate that with nice weather and everything, and so a movie like Aloha hits me at the right time where it's like, we're getting into the vibe, we're thinking about the ocean and stuff. And then this is just bringing back to where the main palettes are literally just the whites, the dark blue, the grey, and it's like, what's going on? Like, it's sunny outside. Why am I looking at this grayscale mountain range? Like, so maybe if it was closer to Christmas time and I was hyped about that, this movie would be hitting me a bit different.
Maybe.
But it's just the colour palette, at least in these mountain scenes, they're draining me.
Yeah. And I feel like something else that I kind of think maybe takes away from the movie at this time is, I feel like we're still quite early in the movie, but when the abominable snowman next arrives, we see like nearly everybody there already in terms of ruling people out. So, for example, the professor's been quite like suspicious throughout, or at least not nice. So instantly you'd suspect them, but I believe at this point we see the abominable snowman and them together, so it's kind of like, okay, well, you're already ruling out the key suspects here. Which is why, maybe skipping a little bit ahead, when we see the return of Del Chillman, I'm almost like, oh my goodness. Like, we'll come on to that, like my reaction to that in a minute, but like, instantly I was like, okay, I want to suspect them, just because I feel like they ruled a lot of people out quite quickly.
Now, do we know if there is a particular reason why they decided to bring Del back? Because for all we're not really there yet, I almost do feel like they realized that the cast surrounding the gang were lacking, so they just thought, who did people kind of resonate with that's in this what's new timeline, and let's just get the new, like, the first person that says yes into the studio.
Yeah, it is interesting, like, why specifically Dell, reappeared. And although it is kind of nice because it's like, ooh, it's a character we know, character we've seen, and it's exciting to see him come back, it just does seem so random, especially because it's like we don't really have it ever again, like a character come back, or very rarely, I should at least say. And so I don't know. I kind of am agreeing with you guys where like the group almost was all together for a good chunk of the movie, so they were like, "Ooh, we need someone else that people can suspect because they're not going to suspect any of these guys because they're all together." And so I don't know. It's just it is weird. It's exciting to see, but it is random.
Well, I guess now we're talking about it, I guess I want to kind of say what my reactions and my thoughts were when we first saw them. In my head, like I said, because everybody else had kind of been cleared, I was like, I think it's them. Wait a minute. When we watched Loch Ness, their van was like one of the 3 Loch Ness monsters. Did it ever explain who it was that caused that? I don't think it explained who it was that caused that. I wonder if he was to blame and now it's him kind of thing. Like, I was physically going back in my mind trying to remember the exact details of Loch Ness and I just couldn't remember if it ever revealed who was to blame for the Loch Ness, because obviously there was like the 3 Loch Nesses at the end, but if it ever explained who was to blame for the one that was his van.
Yeah.
So then I was like, I think it was him. And if he can do that, then he can do this.
Yeah.
But
right.
I was drawing some connections far too quickly.
And fair play. I'm just researching because I was almost curious on if, like, you've got kids watching at the time, if they're even going to remember who this guy is. But it is literally only like a 3-year gap between Loch Ness and this movie, and 3 films.
There's only been 3 movies in between.
Like, not that I think there's going to be a lot of kids that necessarily would have been putting things in chronological order. I mean, there's definitely some. I definitely would have back in the day. But
that's going to be an interesting topic though, because again, I don't know which movies you guys have seen, but like recently, in more of the recent Scooby movies, they're slowly trying to connect them all while still giving each movie its own mystery. Like Curse of the 13th Ghost through Happy Halloween had an overarching story that you really didn't know was going on till Happy Halloween. So, it's kind of interesting that they would do that, expecting, like kids to really pay attention and remember in the amount of time, between the movies.
Yeah, like my thing with like the Scooby Doo movies is, say, from Zombie Island all the way up until Pirates Ahoy, I want to say, all of them were on my DVD player at least, 5 times in every like 2 or 3 months. Like, that was like my main thing. And then occasionally Chill Out, maybe once or twice. Samurai Sword, I think once. For some reason I skipped out on Goblin King. But then it's like, out of nowhere, I think they stopped airing What's New and transitioned to Shaggy and Scooby-Doo Get a Clue. And like, that just snuck up behind my passion and just snapped its neck like so quickly. And it just stopped dead in its tracks. I was like, what's going on? So honestly, after Samurai Sword, there is, in terms of nostalgia, like I have gone back retrospectively, but there is an absolute long list of ones that I never watched as a child, and I, with no exception to be honest, like after that, I think Millie and I last year saw Return to Zombie Island in our local Morrison's. There's like a supermarket here. And we like looked at each other for a second, thinking, okay, we've watched Zombie Island together, and we've discussed how that's a childhood favorite. do we risk this? And ultimately, even back then, we were like, no, I have a feeling that that's going to break our heart. So we are
Yeah.
literally on our way up to the massive gap where I honestly knew nothing about it as a child. So
Yeah, I think the samurai sword's going to be the last one where I've even until Sword and the Scoob.
well, I think it was Scoob for me actually, because I picked up Scoob I think on DVD late October. That was back when we were trying to like watch movies every weekend with like ice cream, and Scoob was one of the ones that I picked out. So if anything, that was the one that kind of brought me back after a while, which is weird to say. Oh, we also saw Happy Halloween Scooby Doo as well. But yeah, I don't know what I would have like, what kids would have been keeping up with that type of thing, especially. I mean, I've got to put this in perspective now because I've got such a bad habit of classifying everything that didn't happen in the last 5 years as just being in black and white. Like, this is 2007, so kids at the time would have access to the internet. They would have access
very
to
early.
rudimentary YouTube. Like, this is around about the same time that Spider-Man 3 was coming out, and I remember whereabouts I was at that time, and I didn't have a phone or anything, but I definitely had regular YouTube access, so I guess it's possible. I definitely wouldn't have been looking at the back of DVD boxes saying, okay, this is 2006, that's 2007, this is 2008, but I guess now, whereabouts are we in the film? So
For me, I think we were kind of heading towards the first chase scene.
I don't know. Okay, so we've got the professor. Okay, no. So the professor is with the hunter and Shaggy and Scooby. The professor is revealed to have a stack of TNT, and the hunter supplies Shaggy and Scooby with a load of Scooby snacks. We haven't really spoken about outfits a lot of this episode, but I really do like Scooby's snow outfit. Like, we criticize Scooby being in like outfits in Where's My Mummy, but I actually think it's just so cute in this movie, and I really want to get a plush of Scooby in like an outfit like that.
Right? Yeah, every time they're like in different outfits, I'm always like, ooh, I want figures of these, in all the different outfits.
Yeah, I just wish they did stuff like that. Like, even I think you can buy some DVDs now with just little add-ons to them. Like, I think when I first got Infinity War, there was like a little Lego Groot keychain, and it just would have been nice that with some of these movies. Like, I think you were saying on Twitter a few days ago, smASH, that if you get a copy of a Scooby Doo DVD early on, you can get a slipcase with it or like a cover. So I think with that addition, maybe for some releases they could do some like add-on, but
Yeah, so for most Scooby movies, honestly I think starting with this one, they do these slip covers, and as long as you can get it within the first month, I'll say, you can usually get the slip cover. And although the slip covers nowadays are pretty generic, it's literally just a slip cover. Like, they don't make it shiny, they don't make it like textured in any way or anything. It's just a matte cardboard, a slip cover over it. Like, this movie has a really unique slipcover that you could have gotten if you got it from its original release, which I'm holding it right now in my hand, where the background on the slipcover is all like whited out, and it has this texture that's all glittery, and you can't see behind Shaggy and Scooby, and it's really shiny. Then when you take the case out of the slipcover, it reveals Fred, Daphne, and Velma on snowboards, and the whole background behind the frosted slipcover, so to say. But with, I believe it was Scooby Doo Haunted Hollywood, if you got that movie, around its release date, then it came with a, quote unquote, exclusive Scooby Doo minifigure.
no, I agree. I think Lego do a good job promoting add-ons, especially with their films. Like even down to like games as well. I think we got a minifigure with what was that Lego game? It was the first one that came out in the Wii U. It was like Lego City. It was the first one with like a
Oh
voiceover.
yeah.
They
Mhm.
included so much in the original bundle of that, and it would just be nice to see them do more. In fact, I am very surprised that they haven't tried to release a Playmobil Scooby Doo movie yet. Because once Playmobil saw the success of the Lego movie, they jumped right on it and made a Playmobil movie. And there's also quite an extensive line of Scooby Doo Playmobil things that I'm surprised that there hasn't been any talks of making a Scooby Doo Playmobil movie.
Well, hopefully I don't get in trouble, but there is talks going on right now. It's been rumored, it's been in the pipeline for a little bit. I think right now in its stage, it's just kind of like in the like if we do this, what's the story going to be? So nothing's confirmed at all, but I hopefully again I don't get in trouble, but it is being talked about.
I would be for that, to be honest, because the issue I had with the Lego movie was for Scooby Doo is I haven't seen any of them yet, so I can't speak on the quality of them. But even if they're the best things in the world, at the end of the day, they're just really, really good adverts for
Yeah.
the toys, and that's fine. But it's like the toys you can't even buy them anymore, like in shops. They're like
Mhm.
not uncommissioned, but they're like almost vaulted, like with the Funko Pops. And it's like if you're gonna release a whole movie saying buy this, buy this, buy this, and that movie isn't really going anywhere anytime soon, it's kind of like why would you do that? Whereas with Playmobil, like we could find some of the early Playmobils that they've done. Like I don't think they're as old as the Legos, or if they're a bit more new. But I don't see them going away anytime soon. Like even just going into our local toy shop, there's like 5 of the big box with the Mystery Machine in.
Yeah, the Lego was weird because they only released like one series of sets of Scooby Lego sets. And they had like the deal with Lego Dimensions, including Scooby and Shaggy in that. But like, we don't exactly know what happened, but it seems like the deal got cut really fast. We don't know, like, just did it not sell well enough or what? But yeah, it's the Lego one is just a weird story because it seems like their contract just got cut like super fast.
I know, and you wouldn't have thought so, especially if they, because there's 2 of the Scooby Doo Lego movies, and I think there's a significant gap in between them both. I don't think they were like year after year. So, Blowout Beach Bash was 2017. And no, Haunted Hollywood. Okay, to be fair, Haunted Hollywood was 2016, and Beach Blowout Bash was 2017. So it could have just been a year-long thing, and then Lego or like Scooby Doo just thought, no, let's not do this anymore. But
And the weird thing is most of the sets that were available are like I guess shown in the Haunted Hollywood one, whereas the Blowout Beach Bash, like nothing in that movie could you ever get in Lego form, to actually have it. And so I mean, I get it. There was probably just this contract of like, oh yeah, you get 2 movies, but like it's just kind of weird because they used all the sets that they made in one movie, and then the next one that they did, they were just like, well, you get whatever you can make up, like, but you can't, it can't be anything that you can go buy. So the Lego things are just really, really weird, and it's sad because now to get your hands on them, they're so freaking expensive.
that seems to be such an unfortunate trend with Scooby merch. It's either like you need to pay a massive price for an item that was just scarce, like, with the Funko Pops. Wow, like just getting that Daphne one alone, I think if it wasn't for that Daphne one, like, I don't know, it's just that alone was a lot. And then the Lego, like, we haven't got any of the Lego. I don't think we will be able to get any Lego for a few years. But that's kind of rare. And it's like, I don't understand. There's like nothing really for Scooby Doo seems to have been mass produced, at least not for a few years, maybe with the exception of the Playmobiles. And everything for Scoob, obviously. I think when like the second something's given a cinema release, it's always going to be pushed more heavily with merch, which you'd expect. But it's like loads of Scooby things that you look back on, it's just like, this was really cool, this would have been popular, but you just can't find it anymore. And that's why I think I gravitated initially to collecting some of the old vintage things, because it's kind of like, if everything is more difficult to get a hold of, you kind of like may as well just get things that you're probably never going to see on the market again.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, I guess to kind of lead back into this movie, chill out. Around the movie's release, I was able. Well, it was before the movie's release. But I was able to pick up the like junior novelization of this movie.
Oh,
But I've never seen it anywhere else, since.
was that like
and
a
random
Scholastic release, or was that just like its own Warner Brothers type there?
I don't know. I'd have to go pull it off the shelf because it's like, a little mini chapter book, and it has like in the middle of it has the colored pictures from the movie. And but random note I was gonna bring up is it advertises the movie at the end of the book. It has like a whole page of the DVD will be available on September or whatever. And I'll send you guys a picture of this book and everything, but at the in the back of the book, it shows like an early rough sketch of what the cover was going to be, and it's kind of interesting to see the tweaks that they did before finalizing it.
That does sound cool. I am so weak for stuff like that, especially in regards to the 2002 movie, because obviously stuff had to be changed dramatically for that leading up to the release, and so to find a publication early on that has a hint at things like, oh my gosh, yeah. So one thing I found out the other day was we got the movie scrapbook for the 2002 movie. And again, I don't know if this is like one of the more edgy references or stuff that was too on the nose that they had to cut out. But it very specifically says that what Shaggy and Scooby are doing in that kind of 5 or so year gap when they're just chilling on the beach is selling pottery. Or like doing pottery. And so it's like, oh, okay, I see what that's about. Okay, fair enough. But yeah.
Did either of you get to see Scooby Doo 2 in theaters?
No, and I regret it. I'm pretty sure I saw it. When was it released in theaters? Because I remember watching an interview that it was apparently given such a stinky time to be released. But I think I may have been on holiday when that was mostly seeing the light of day. Do you know when it saw a cinema release?
Yeah, it was in March of 2004.
March. So goodness knows what I was doing then, but I missed it, unfortunately.
Okay, so random, because I was able to see that one in theaters. But that movie, the original theatrical release has never been released on home media because there was a lot of, I guess, on the nose drug jokes and different things in the theatrical version that parents, got mad about and stuff. So there is a version of that movie that's probably a good 5 minutes longer that has never been released.
Was that for the second or first movie?
That's for the second one.
I am so surprised at that, because you'd think that after like the kind of full 180 they did with the first one that they would have cut all that out.
Yeah, there are some clips of it online that I've been able to find, but there's one scene in particular that I remember the most seeing in theaters that, like, getting the movie again, I was like, oh, that was super short. Wonder what happened. And then obviously once I did my research, I was like, oh, okay. But anyway, random.
Yeah. Oh, and that's just another thing that I feel like is gonna be a product of its time. It's gonna live on in a lot of people's memories. But you have to imagine that if that was released now and they tried to do that, there'd be like 10 minimum clips on YouTube within the first like second of the
Oh
movie
yeah,
coming out. And that's
yeah.
kind of what we've got now that we didn't have then, unfortunately. But I am shocked because I felt very much like the second movie kind of figured like, oh gosh, like it was kind of before reboots were really done. So I feel like if that movie was made today, you know, straight off the first movie, they would have gone, right, that didn't work, that was too edgy, we have to like fully recast. Whereas but then it was just like, oh, I guess we're just gonna have to continue this and correct the mistakes we feel like we've made.
Yeah.
So that surprises me. Um but speaking of surprises, back to chill out, we have a few surprise traps set by this wacky hunter character. Now these are like full-blown lasers. And my issue with that is that they look like very expensive gadgets, and this guy's just placed them on like the edge of a cliff, and I don't really know the rationale behind that. But going back to analogies, the way that the laser springs up reminds me so much of the cages from Monster of Mexico and the issue with that. Because it's like,
True.
one, I don't think that it would hold the Abominable Snowman. And two, I guess it's very specific at the point that the lasers cut at. But these traps themselves didn't the lasers themselves didn't dispense the cage. The cage was like underground. So for every point that the laser could have possibly been interfered with, are we to assume that there was just a cage just preset under there? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
it didn't make much sense at all. But luckily we do get our first chase scene at this point. And I think it was nice to have one, but I can't say that the song was particularly a banger. It definitely grew on me as it went on, but initially I'm just thinking, okay, this is good. It's like ticking boxes, but I'm not really feeling much at this point.
I definitely feel like this movie, I think, has the most forgettable chase songs, at least that we've seen so far. I don't know. I mean, do I remember them? Yeah, of course, because I've watched this movie, a handful of times. But like, it's never one like all the songs in this movie. I feel like are never ones that I'm like, ooh, I want to jam to that. Like the last movie or Zombie Island or whatever. So I don't know. I just don't vibe with these chase songs.
Yeah, although I will say, the Santa Shaggy and Rudolph Scooby is a toy that I needed yesterday.
Oh yes.
And I don't know. I wish that this was more, not a Christmas film, but more of like a holiday festive film. Because I feel that, and this is coming from someone that's like, favourite weather is rain. Like, I think I thrive naturally in colder scenarios. But in terms of the winter season in general, I feel that like Christmas and stuff like that is really the only thing it's got going for it. And so to see a winter type of movie devoid of any of the cheer that comes with winter, it's a bit like, that's a bit odd.
Yeah, that's something I have wanted for the longest time is like a dedicated holiday or Christmas movie because I feel like we don't have one and like now we have two Halloween Scooby Doo movies, that being Goblin King and Happy Halloween. I have like okay, this is really random. I've like made up a whole title, a whole synopsis of a Christmas Scooby Doo movie that I want, and I've like posted on Twitter and stuff and been like, okay, can somebody over at Warner Brothers make this, please and thank you?
Like, I don't know, what would your vision have been for like a Christmassy type monster? Like, I guess the obvious go-to would be like evil elves or Krampus, but
Well, yeah.
Mm.
So what my idea is, because again, I don't want that like evil elves or uh rogue Santa or something. So my idea actually is that uh someone has done something to the reindeer to make them go rogue, and now they've run off and are causing mayhem before Christmas, and so Santa calls the help of Mystery Inc. to help find out who is doing this to the reindeer, and how to get them back and everything. And I would call it Scooby Doo and the Runoff Reindeer. I want this to be a thing.
That actually would be really nice, because I guess the main argument for that would be, oh well, not everyone celebrates Christmas, or
Yeah,
like it's only a film that you could watch once a year. But like, if they can release Happy Halloween, it's not too different than
yeah,
that, because I don't think
true.
everyone really celebrates Halloween. Although I gotta say, I don't really think I've met someone that's like, oh no, I just don't celebrate Halloween. It's against this, it's against that. But I'm sure there is some, like,
Oh,
especially I think some
I
churches are
have
just
met
like,
people.
don't mock the deaf, don't mock paranormal things, and I kind of understand that, to be honest.
Yeah, no, there are people out there that don't celebrate Halloween for, this or that reason. So, the fact that they can do again two dedicated Halloween Scooby movies. Where's my Christmas one?
Yeah, they should make that happen at some point. Hopefully one day they do, because I'm probably of the impression that by the end of the run of these films, if it ever does end, they're gonna have like a Scooby movie for everything. Like, in the
Yeah,
far future, you could theoretically watch one for the purpose one every day of the year.
yeah, yeah. Honestly,
And hopefully the lot of us have like kids or something that can cover those movie in a future version of Smash or Pass. But I don't know. I think it'll far exceed what we think, because it's been around for so long. You have to assume that every movie eventually is going to be made for it eventually.
yeah.
But I don't know. For all the song in this chase scene isn't that great, I do feel like there's a lot of fun to be had within it. Like the igloo scene, like the igloo hiding scene. I think that's just classic fun. So I do think there's a lot to like in the chase song. If it's just not necessarily the song. Um. Oh, and then this is the official introduction of Del Chillman,
Yes.
and that again adds some likable characters, or a likable character, into the mix. Another thing that this was really interesting about, and I feel like this is potentially a first and only, at least until I think it's Curse of the 13th Ghost, all the way until Happy Halloween. But this actually builds on stories set up in a previous movie. So they acknowledge the Loch Ness monster, and you even hear Del saying that Nessie was a no-show, which is obviously just like a throwaway line to explain how he can appear here. But you've kind of got to think, if that's actual canon, if that's lore within this timeline now, then that means that there's some other story going on with the researcher that was skeptical about Nessie, maybe the writer that faked all the Nessie stuff is having some more repercussions now, that it could be that could be another hoax. So I'm kind of more interested in, like, at this point, can we just go back to Loch Ness for a little bit? Like, can we see what's going on there? But I don't feel like that's ever happened before, has it? Like, I'm just trying to think that there's been references to, like haunted tikis and stuff, but never like, okay, so these people in this location, there's something that's different that's happened.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, because like there's a movie called Moon Monster Madness, and unfortunately they never bring up anything of alien invaders in that movie. Which I know kind of takes, a total different timeline scenario there. I'm trying to rack my brain now of anything that they do kind of reference or anything. But it is starting to become more of a thing in the recent movies. I mean, I know we had specific movies dedicated two past mysteries, but they are, even just in the series, even they're starting to connect stuff and reference stuff a lot more, which is really fun to see. And I don't know, I love when they do that. Even if it is like, I guess, say in Return to Zombie Island, they had a little, oh, look at this picture of the reluctant werewolf, you know, it was like, ooh, you know, something I recognize type of thing.
Yeah. I mean, Millie, at this point, is a part of you kind of wishing that they just like pumped out a maybe lackluster Loch Ness Monster sequel versus what we're getting now?
No, I like the Loch Ness Monster movie. And like we were saying about Zombie Island, we didn't want to watch the sequel because we just didn't think it'd live up to expectations.
Yeah, but like this is, I guess, a reasonable time after the Loch Ness Monster, that it isn't just like maybe revisiting something
I mean,
for the sake of it. Not that that's necessarily everything that happens when there's one of these massive accounts, but
I think there was a big gap between this, you know, with Zombie Island as well, so like maybe that's seen as reasonable to some people. I don't know, I feel like a sequel has to be necessary. So I'd much rather have had one movie that stood on in its own right, that I'm like, do you know what, kind of don't like what they did here, as opposed, or at least I find some of it a bit questionable, as opposed to having a movie that I really like, get excited for a sequel, and then they've done a design style that I maybe don't like this, you know, Shaggy and Scooby been separate thing.
yeah.
Have either of you seen Camp Scare?
JayBee has. I fell asleep
once, and you fell asleep. Well, no, I think it's because I insisted on watching the bonus features beforehand, because I think that's the first one we watched when the TV show episodes were included as well, like some TV show episodes.
Yeah.
So I was like excited, like, oh my gosh, like we watched Mystery Incorporated on the laptop, and like let's see how it looks on the TV. And I was like, okay.
Did you watch through the credits of that movie?
I don't think I did, which makes me sound a bit like a heathen in hindsight.
That's strange, because you normally do, because you look for like scenes and stuff.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what I was doing.
So hopefully I don't spoil anything, but that movie has an end credit scene that basically set up a sequel that I am still waiting for.
Oh, so when did Camp Scare come out?
That was like 2011, maybe? Because it was right after Abracadabra Doo, and it was right around when Mr. Incorporated was airing.
I mean, I can't say that I'm too much of a fan for Scooby Doo movies. For all I have in these podcasts, I have so many questions for smASH about the timeline. At the same time, I think I prefer it not been linked. Like, so I know we're not there yet, but at the end of this movie, when Fred makes the call like, oh, now I'm lost, I'm like, no. I don't want this again. I don't want one where it's Shaggy and Velma and Daphne and Scooby looking for Fred, and no, I don't want to see that. Like, at the start of The Witch's Ghost, we were like, I wonder what happened in that mystery. When we see that scene at the end, I'm not like, I wonder what happens next.
Yeah.
I'm almost like, I don't want that.
Yeah.
I don't want to see this again, please, no.
You do raise a really good point there that I didn't really think about, because in hindsight, now that we're kind of going down this route and like dedicating ourselves to go through all these movies, at the same time, it's like, if we were to assume that we both, that you and I, Millie, fell off after Samurai Sword, to then revisit the series like 20 movies later with the knowledge that, you know, in order to watch one, you'll have to watch them all to get what, you know, like trying to get into the Marvel movies now, like, for all it's not an essential thing, it does very much help. And if it was like that with Scooby Doo, I don't think I could do it. Like, if it was that much lore to get bogged down by in one go.
I will say, I personally haven't seen Return to Zombie Island yet. And I am not looking forward to that happening.
Yeah,
like JayBee said earlier,
my full thoughts about that, but we'll get to it.
We went to the store together. We were like, oh no, when did this happen? Should we watch it? And we both said no. And to me, that JB's bought the DVD. He's watched it when I've fallen asleep, but I've not seen it. And until this podcast, it very much seemed like it was just going to stay that way, and I didn't have a problem with that.
Oh no.
Yeah, to you, I feel that it could either go one of two ways. Either one, you'll kind of enjoy what it is and accept that it doesn't take away from the original movie, or it'll be like opening the chest of demons.
From what I've heard, from what you and Smash have said, I'm predicting that it's just going to be an hour or so of me saying how much I hate Velma. From what I've heard.
I mean,
that's my prediction.
I'm not saying what I think about the movie, but Velma definitely is something that's going to be spoken about a lot, at least by me in that Smash or Pass in like 20 weeks time.
Yeah, she needs help with how she's being written right now. I will say, compared to Return to Zombie Island, she's better in that movie, I feel, than she is in Curse of the 13th Ghost. But I actually really enjoy Curse of the 13th Ghost. I put that one in my top 5 favorite Scooby Doo movies, actually. But I will say she's a lot better in Return to Zombie Island compared to that one.
Yeah, I think we did choose the right time to kind of get started back up with things, because I think that she's not too bad at all in, say, Sword and the Scoob. And in fact, that's such not a generic movie, but it's like a movie that just does its thing. And it's like, you know, it's what you'd expect from a Scooby-Doo movie. So I think that was a really good time to hop on board with things, where if it was the year Curse of the 13th Ghost had come out, it'd be a case of feeling that we had to watch the series again. Or if it was when Return to Zombie Island came out, it'd be a bit like, oh, we're a bit nervous to get into this. But I kind of feel that it was the right thing at the right time, especially with us with the Sword and the Scoob.
Do you guys think, if you haven't already, do you guys think you're going to watch the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo before you watch Curse of the 13th Ghost?
I definitely think so, because interestingly enough, that's one of the only Scooby-Doo series DVD that I've still got from childhood, and I don't remember much of it, but the one that we have is literally the one that I've had for years, so I definitely think that's an option.
I think we're going to, but I think see, this is the issue. I feel like it'll take away from what I think of the movie again.
I think I've seen the film.
Because I very much like traditional stuff. And so I think I'm going to be a bit like, I don't know how I feel about Fred and Velma being so prominent. Because that's 13th Ghost when it was mainly just Daphne, Shaggy, and Scooby.
And I think you had Flim Flam as well.
Yeah, Flim Flam was in that series. So I will say, if Millie, you don't want to watch the series, they do a really good job in that movie of not necessarily making two different stories, but basically having the story split into two parts, where there's Fred and Velma, who are the catch-up characters, where they are trying to catch up in the story, and so they're basically the characters that you mainly follow along with if you didn't watch the original series, and they will catch up with you. Or you have the people that have already seen the series and are caught up for this movie with Shaggy, Scooby, and Daphne, who are just going full-fledged into it. So they did a really good job of giving both audiences a good movie, where it's fine if you haven't seen the series. You don't need you don't have to watch it to understand this movie, but if you have watched the series, you will get a lot of the references in the movie. I will say, I did a reaction to this movie on my channel, but it got blocked. There were at least like 2 or 3 times that things popped up on the screen that I audibly like cheered that they brought back. You know, they didn't make it a big deal or anything, but it was just like a wink and a nod to the series. So anyway, that's a whole nother story for another day, but just so you're aware.
I mean, it does just go to show that, like, there could be anything, like a sequel to anything, and it can still be good. Like, imagine we're talking about the Count Scare sequel that you're waiting for now. Like, they could literally wait until until all three of us are in like our mid-40s until that drops.
Yeah.
Like, it could be like that, and I
Yeah.
guess that's all right to an extent. You know, they're not kind of like trying to like shove popular names down us all the time. They're trying new things.
Yeah.
Okay, so where did we get up to?
So I'm at the part where Shaggy and Scooby are at the Radio Shack with Del, and they get that note, and it's very obvious who sent the note. But I think Del then pops out to do something and leaves Shaggy and Scooby alone to kind of do their DJ thing. And they pick up an album, and I thought that it looks suspiciously like a Pokeball. Maybe I've just been opening too many. Well, I've been watching Millie open too many
I thought
Pokemon
that
cards.
too.
But it's like,
I thought that too.
I mean, I don't know if that was a reference, but instantly I'm like, oh, I'm going mad.
Yeah.
And just the fact that he leaves just fueled what I was thinking about, oh, it's him. Like, I was
agree.
convinced it was Del.
And it literally, if I'd just been watching these in chronological order, though, the only thing that would stop me from thinking that is that for new people who really don't know who this guy is, apart from the fact that maybe he's some explorer that was looking for the Loch Ness monster beforehand, we've not really had much development. I mean, that's been a thing for a while, maybe with like Mr. Smiley and stuff, but that was at least the seeds for that were planted very early on. But with this, it was out of nowhere. But it's like, either the movies must be overestimating kids nowadays, or something. But there's a reveal, and I don't know if this is spoiling anything, but the reveal for who the villain is in like Happy Halloween Scooby Doo, that was like a recurring thing for like the last 3 films or so. And it's like, if that's the first film that you pick up, you're confused. And so I feel like Del would have been a bit confusing to be the villain here.
Yeah, see,
Yeah.
I think something where that could get confusing is I feel like for Scooby Doo, it's been around for so long that when you first watch Scooby Doo as a child, you're not like, oh yeah, I'm going to start from the first episode in 1969. It's, this is what's on TV today.
Yeah.
Like, I could honestly say until we started this, I couldn't have put these movies in order. It was just a case of, oh wow, did you know that Cyber Chase is going to be on Boomerang? Like, when I finished school on Tuesday, this is going to be great. It wasn't, okay, I need to watch this one, this one, this one, and this one in that order.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously, there's like things you can pick up on. Like, I kind of knew that the first 3 or 4 were dramatically different in tone from the others, so I kind of thought, okay, maybe these were a bit older. But yeah, you're right. I didn't really know. But Smash, what are your thoughts on, I guess, continuity? Like, if Del was revealed to be the villain here, would that have been too much of a stretch? Or I guess with the kind of reveal at the end of Happy Halloween, do you reckon they could have pulled it off?
Okay, so I think for his character specifically, I don't think I would have liked that. Just because I feel like he is a likable character. And so to like make us, like him in Loch Ness Monster, then bring him back just to have him be the villain, to like leave us with a bad taste in our mouth with him in the end, I wouldn't have appreciated. In terms of, kind of like Happy Halloween where they did that, I feel like the problem with Happy Halloween is I just feel like there wasn't communication all around, and so like I can see how Curse of the 13th Ghost and Return to Zombie Island flow one to the next, but then it almost feels like they didn't tell the director or writer of Happy Halloween what they did with their movie for them to pick up with their movie, because like the writer of Happy Halloween Scooby-Doo wasn't told that they were without the mystery machine in Return to Zombie Island and that they gotta find it until basically like towards the end of production. And so it bugs me, and I'm sure some other people are bugged too, that they made this huge deal in the end of Return to Zombie Island that we'll do whatever it takes to get the Mystery Machine back, and then the next movie, bam, it's back, and you're just like, I wanted to see that journey. Excuse me, I wanted to see how they got it back after they sold it, and and so it's unfortunate that there wasn't that communication, and so I fear that if they were to have done it in this movie, that if you were a kid watching it, you would have been like, oh, okay. I mean, I know as a kid, you probably would have been like, oh wow, he's the bad guy, but as an older audience, bringing back a character from a previous iteration or movie or something, it's like you've got to, you can't rewrite that character to the point that even the main characters don't recognize him, type of thing. Like, you can't just bring him back just for kicks and giggles. And so if they were to make Del the villain in this movie, I just worry that it would have just been like, it would have felt more like, we didn't know who to make the villain, so we're just gonna make it him. While I do kind of feel like that still happened with the character in this, not Del, but Minga, I just feel like it would have really just done some disgrace to his character overall after bringing him back. It's like, don't bring him back just to make him an unlikable character after you just made him a likable character in Loch Ness. So I don't know, those are my 2 cents on that.
No, I agree with you, and I think, like I was saying as well, in terms of just coming in from school, not knowing the chronology of it, just been like, oh yeah, this one's the one that's on TV. Say if I'd watched this on Boomerang and then they were airing the Loch Ness 3 weeks later, and they'd been the villain in this one, it'd be like, why are they now friends with them? I don't understand, because I do think that Scooby Doo is in a place where, because the chronology is just, it's not there, unless you physically know dates and you're there for the reveal, for the launch of all these movies, you don't know. So I think that it would have very easily been the case that it was just how they were aired on TV, and it's like, why they're suddenly friends. To some people, I think it'd be seen that way.
Yes.
Yeah, although imagine if you watched like Scooby Doo 2002 and then like Scooby Doo and Scrappy. That would be a bit of a mind blow. But so,
Where are we with
the
this
gang
now?
finally decide to arrive. And look, here's the thing. And this is, again, going to be unpopular, but I would go as far to say, as for all I've moaned and grumbled about scenes, that it's so obvious that they've just added it in to increase running time so they hit like a mark or something. This, to me, is like the biggest criminal of them all, because the gang show up to retread Shaggy and Scooby's steps and do everything that Shaggy and Scooby do, except with the ability to solve the mystery. So it's like the reason why they're split up at the start is so that they could show us exactly what they've already shown us, but all over again. So they could tell the same story twice.
And we're already like, literally the second that they're like, we're like, yes, it's great, they're together. Let's split up, guys, and look for clues. No!
Yep.
No, you've literally just got here. Please don't make this worse. And then just to make the dynamic even more uncomfortable, Fred's like, oh, come on, Daphne. And she's like, nope, not going with you. And it's like, oh, this is...
That was so weird. I didn't like that.
We've had a formula for like the last 10 movies and it's worked and we've enjoyed it. Just stop messing with things now.
But I don't even mind
I was
breaking up the formula if it was explained. Like, why does she not want to? Is she just being rude? Like, it wasn't this thing where they were trying to make Fred jealous again. It was just, yeah, now I'm gonna go with this guy. Huh, okay, that's it. Why? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
They're all becoming the bane of my existence at this point. And I think this is the first... Well, I don't think it's the worst that we've seen. I really don't. I feel like this is the first Scooby-Doo movie where at some point I'm just like, I'm kind of bored to some extent, and that's the worst thing you can be. Because even if you can sit there and acknowledge, like, look, I love the Scooby Doo movies. This one in particular, however, I feel like I could only enjoy this if I was like 5 years old. But with this, it's like, no, this isn't one that talks down to people. This is definitely one, like the others, that you could enjoy theoretically as an adult. Like and I think they've done a great job doing that for all of them. It's just like you get bad adults movies, and this is just giving me the same vibe. Like they've just rehashed things over and over again, and I'm like, no.
I think
stop.
If this was the only Scooby Doo movie in existence, and the TV series and everything never existed, so you didn't care about the characters being together and the dynamic that they've previously had, it wouldn't be as bad. But because we've seen so many good Scooby Doo movies throughout doing Smash or Pass, we're obviously comparing it more. We've seen a different dynamic that I think it's fair to say we might prefer when they're actually together and stuff. It's kind of like, okay, well, compared to the other ones, this one's different.
Yeah, and I guess so, to be honest, because like if it was just a fresh movie, it wouldn't really feel like people have been split up at all. And it's like we were saying, you know, on one hand, for all the lore doesn't necessarily carry over, it's like if we're going to acknowledge that, I guess we should also acknowledge as well that each movie should be taken at face value, but you can't help but watch the movie and not feel a bit weird when they're not all together, at least not for so long. Like, I don't know, it just feels like they're just telling us the same things, except Velma's telling us the same things about the footprints that we should have been told about 10 minutes into it.
Yeah, it just seemed so behind. It seemed almost like they had to wrap everything up in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It was like, it was kind of like, okay, here we've got this Scooby and Shaggy narrative that we're going to run with for 45 minutes. And then that leaves us half of the time that we normally have to be like, okay, here's the footprints, they aren't right. Time to split up and look for clues, let's set a trap.
I admit, like, rewatching this movie, I admit I watched it today right before we were recording. I fell asleep. I did. Like, I fell asleep and I was like, crap. Like, I remember this movie really well, but I could not remember her motive. I couldn't remember Minga's motive. Like, I remembered it was her behind the mask. So I had to, like, look it up because I fell asleep, which, honestly, I haven't done to a Scooby movie in, like, forever. But my thing is, like, with this one, I felt like there wasn't a point of having Shaggy and Scooby, you know, away from the gang. Whereas in the next movie, Goblin King, they make it clear as day that they have this whole character arc of trying to learn to have courage in the face of fear. And so while in this movie I feel like it was very pointless to have the gang split up, I feel like in the next movie they kind of have it more grounded as to why they're split up for the whole movie, more or less. But yeah, I don't know. It did feel like they were like trying to do catch up, but we were just getting told the same story again, just with different characters.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like the next movie, although yes, they do kind of have to do a little bit of catch up. The gang, like Fred, Daphne, and Velma, definitely have their own story going on that more or less comes together in the end, rather than, again, playing catch up.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that from how you've described it, because the next one is one that neither JayBee or I have ever seen before.
I don't think I've even seen clips of it. Like, I think I thought I did, but it was actually a clip for like Music of the Vampire. Like, I've not seen anything of the Goblin King at all.
Oh gosh, I'm like a little worried, but also excited to hear your thoughts, because again, it is a very diverse movie, and that's because it is heavy heavy supernatural movie.
I'm looking forward
I'm
to
looking
that.
forward
I'm
to
looking
it, and I'm looking forward to seeing some of the aspects from this movie, like you said, with the kind of more separate storylines, but to see that in a more cohesive way. Like, we were talking about the gang then being like, oh, let's split up, and why? They end up in exactly the same location within 2 minutes.
Yeah.
They're all together, and it's like, well, where did you actually split up to go? Because I don't know how you didn't bump into each other on the way there, quite frankly.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of bugged me that once the rest of the gang got to Mount Everest, I mean, I get what they were, kind of doing, having the monster attack Shaggy and Scooby, as, that it's prone to happen, but I didn't like that as soon as they get to Mount Everest, Shaggy and Scooby are gone from the location that, they knew that they were at. And I'm like, no, now we're just extending this chase even longer, between the gang.
Yeah, see, it just seemed like such a long movie. Like, it seemed like Shaggy and Scooby were on their own forever and we were waiting forever. But then the trap at the end just seemed to go on for a long time too. Like,
Yeah.
we need to set this up and do this. And then it changed completely to almost like a second trap they were setting up. And it's like, where did this time come from?
And I will say too, we may not quite be there, but I just wanted to bring this up while it's in my brain that Shaggy and Scooby's like falling down into the cavern moment, and having this weird, oh, we're in a paradise type thing. Totally reminded me of their "Where are you" moment, or not "Where are you?" "Where's my mummy" moment.
Oh yeah, all the scuba stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, it's like, they've had enough of their own side stories now. Because that was the scuba thing, wasn't it? Just like, keeping them out of the way so they couldn't get into danger and stuff. And it's like, great. They've been kept out of, well, they've not been kept out of the way, they've been right in the middle of danger, but they've been on their own for long enough. Like, let's not give them yet another story arc where it's just them. Like, let's bring it all back together now. Let them unmask the person together at the end. It's that time. But, let's wrap this up kind of thing.
Yeah, like they still felt like they had to give Shaggy and Scooby a side quest when the whole movie's been a Shaggy and Scooby side quest.
Yeah.
And the only mystery solving done is when Fred, Velma, and Daphne show up. Now we've kind of spoken a lot about, the snowman appearing. I can't remember if that's another chase scene or not. I didn't write anything down.
Yeah, there's a lot of chase scenes. I think there's maybe
there's
4
like 3.
or 5.
But again, I think
I've got
the
a note of
second
here.
one, I think it's just an instrumental, so I didn't really think too
Yeah.
much about that. But yeah, so Fred says we've got a mystery on our hands like an hour into the movie.
And then Daphne's like, Scooby Doo,
Yeah,
where
Daphne
are
says,
you?
Scooby Doo, where are you? Which I think is like the 3rd or 4th time that that's happened, which I enjoyed. And the snowsuit that she has is actually really cool. And I feel like they do a lot of good stuff with her wardrobe that they overcomplicate things with the others. With Daphne, like in like winter outfits, you kind of get a standard jacket, but then like fluff, like kind of overlining it.
Yeah.
They literally just make her jacket like purple, and then make the kind of fluff like lighter purple. Whereas the others, for some reason, they feel the need to add stripes everywhere and stuff, and it's like sometimes less is more. It's not necessary to over design everything.
So I have to say with Daphne, her little Scooby Doo, where are you moment, I was a little disappointed with this one because like they had, the whole echo in the mountains and they had a really cool soundtrack, kind of, I wouldn't say emotional, but in a way, soundtrack going on during that moment. And then I feel like it was ruined the next second with just like dead silence, and all of a sudden Shaggy and Scooby were talking on the little radio and they were like, oh, there they are. I was like, no, you had like this dramatic moment. We should let them, kind of wonder for a minute.
Yeah, and I don't understand why they don't do that, because it's not like they think that the material is too heavy to deal with in, like, I guess, a kid's movie. Because even something like Scoob has, like, some scenes that I don't even feel that these films would go into that territory of, like, Shaggy and Scooby,
Yeah.
like, full-on arguing. And it's like, okay, just because it's in the cinema doesn't mean that it can't upset, like, kids watching. Like, you can have
Yeah.
some dramatic stuff. And there's a lot of behind the scenes things with Scoob that I'm not really a big fan of, and I'm just gonna say this now. I really don't think much of Will Forte's version of Shaggy. Like, I don't know. But that movie, every time I've seen it at the end I've cried. I don't know, they just do something right with that. And it's like if I can cry at that, surely it wouldn't be difficult to put in some type of like heartfelt thing that if nothing else but nostalgia gets me. I don't know why they don't just let them enjoy a bit more of a somber moment. It just seems a bit
Yeah.
ruined. But I actually do like how that the gang are made aware of Shaggy and Scooby through the radio, because not only does it give us the path finally for those guys being reunited, but it also sets up the fact that Minga dropped that radio as well. So it is furthering the story quite a lot.
Yeah.
So another thing that I thought was great, and okay, I think I have skipped ahead a bit, but another thing that I thought was great was when the abominable snowman interrupts Shaggy and Scooby, they full on just deck it with a table.
Yeah.
Opens the door, it peers in spookily, and then you just see Shaggy and Scooby grabbing like separate legs off the table and just plowing into its face with it. And that was just hilarious, because usually it's like, well, you've never really attacked a monster before, like, what's stopping you now? But like, he just took a chair at
that's
its
the only
face.
personality kind of variance that I enjoy in this movie, because like we talked at the very start about how the others were showing more like personality traits of Shaggy and Scooby with the, oh, we're not solving mysteries or making mistakes with pronunciations and stuff. Whereas seeing them be a bit braver, like maybe like something you'd expect to see Fred and Daphne doing, was a bit like, yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Like, you've
You
been
know,
on your own all throughout this, and it's good to see that there's been some development in you, that you're standing up kind of thing.
True. This kind of happened a little bit ago, but one part that I kind of got a chuckle out of was when the whatever his name was, Lafleur or whatever, came into their tent, and Shaggy and Scooby were all like decked out to have a spa day, and they're like, sorry, we need our beauty sleep. I was like, I don't know, that gave me a little chuckle.
Yeah, it's me too.
There is a lot with this, and it's like we've kind of spoken about some of the parts where maybe that didn't work out, Daphne rejecting Fred, and that, all that happening. And I think we have skipped over the part where like that Alphonse guy full on just like falls off a cliff. Oh no, I think that happens literally now. But there was some weird things happening in this scene, like Scooby's chattering sound effect. It was like at some point I thought like a bird had like got into like the room or something. But the hunter full on fall down, and I honestly thought he was dead at that point. Like my notes literally just said, "Did LaFrance die?"
I mean, this movie certainly defies gravity.
It definitely defies gravity. We'll say that much.
Falling from a plane, falling in that hole in the ground, like literally at this point, gravity's gonna do nothing to them. That's what I've taken away from this movie.
Yeah. Again, though, we get to another sequence where, like, I start to really miss Casey Kasem again. Like, when the hot air balloon, like, lifts them off, and, like, just how happy Shaggy sounds when he says, let's just, like, take it to Coolsville. Like, just the almost kind of, like, childish naivety of, like, they've got this little makeshift balloon, but he genuinely just wants to, like, take it, like, back home with him. He's not just like, let's just find somewhere safe to go. He's like, yeah, now this can take us home. It's like, I did really like that moment. So, huge credit to Casey Kasem with that there.
So do you guys know Casey Kasem's background?
I understand that Casey Kasem was very much a very, very funny person that had some, I guess, complications with life. I don't really know much about the in and outs of that, but definitely I knew that things could have been a lot happier for his personal life.
Just because this movie really has a big moment that kind of pays homage to him. This wasn't his last movie as Shaggy, but well, I don't know if it's before or during, but at some point in his life, he was a very popular like radio host, and he always did like the top 70 hit songs or whatever. And so the fact that they let Shaggy have this radio moment, it let Casey Kasem go back to his root for a good chunk of the movie, and I just thought that was really cool.
That's sweet.
Yeah, and they literally let him do his like DJ voice as well. Like
Yeah.
you want to hear my DJ voice, and then he does something, and I'm like, oh, that's cool, you know. So that is a really cool fact that I didn't really know about. So that is really good. So, let me see. I'm at the point now where Daphne is with, what's the guy's name again? Is it not Pumba? Timber? Timber? I don't know. Pemba. So Daphne's with Pemba, and somehow she manages to trip over a giant orange canister in a room full of ice. Don't quite know how that works. But again, these pairings are just a lot of nothing at this point. But then like, okay, so then this is when Shaggy and Scooby go to the Lost Kingdom of Shangri-La. And again, this is like another side quest within a side quest. But I have to say, it is a very interesting location, and I was almost so relieved just seeing some different colours there that wasn't just bleak and dark.
Me too, but I feel like it was just a bit late in the movie. It's kind of like, great. Maybe if this was here 15 minutes ago, you'd have had time for it. But right now, I'm just done with the movie. Like, let's wrap it up. Or let's get them back together.
Yeah.
Let's do something.
And I almost thought that it was just setting up another suspect. Instantly, with this high llama, I don't trust them at all. They just seem a bit shady. But apparently not. So I don't know what the purpose of this scene was, because it doesn't do anything. Like, I don't even think that's what the villain's after.
All that kind of cut thing does is it reintroduces them to the abominable snowman, because they're stood there triggering the chase scene, ready to kind of wrap things up. It's literally just a device to get it to the end, I feel.
Yeah, I agree. And if the hunter was like, you know, but before I'd got old or something, like I used to hunt this, that, and the other, and now I'm just too old to chase down anything. If like he wanted to relive his youth by like getting some fountain of youth from Shangri-La, that would be okay. Equally, the professor could have made a few more discoveries in his early
And
days,
how
and
many
that's why he wants
fortunes
that.
do there need to be in this? Like, for some Scooby Doo movies, the thing of youth, the fountain of youth or whatever, would be enough of a, okay, this is the goal. Whereas they needed all the crystals and things as well, and it was like, well, isn't there two things you could go for here?
Like, if it was the Shangri-La was the goal, I would understand it a bit more, but it just isn't. So then they go through to this kind of room with the mine cards.
Yeah.
And again, instantly, for all I want this movie to kind of end at this point, I was just craving a mine rail chase scene. We do get that eventually, but I was like, oh my gosh, like, are we gonna get that? But again, we get introduced to all these crystals, but I just feel that like they must have ran out of like crayons or something in the studio, because you could mistake the crystals with like icicles or like just ice in general, and it's like, well, at least make them diamonds and make them red.
Yeah, even then we're not getting
Emeralds,
the colour that we're
make
missing.
them green. Like, do something that doesn't just make them look like big icicles. Like, I don't know. Like, that just doesn't seem very difficult. Not like I'm like into animation or anything. Like, it's probably very difficult. I probably couldn't do it, but it's like any other color, literally any other color. But then we get the professor kind of blowing stuff up. And do we know why he's blowing stuff up? Is it literally just to dislodge some of the diamond?
Yeah, I think it's to be able to move it if it's fixed into the rock, I imagine.
Yeah.
But you'd think that'd destroy the crystal in itself, which...
Yeah, like if it was diamonds, maybe it would have been like okay, but crystal, I don't think crystal's very... Is it very hard? Is
No, it's not very durable, I don't think.
I mean, I don't think we should try it, but like, it's certainly a question. But now I think my Monster of Mexico analogy comes to like full fruition, because we literally get a play-by-play of Monster of Mexico in this scene now. So there's this kind of goofy guy that they apprehend, they kind of have them tied up, and then everyone's like, so that's the mystery solved, right? And then Shaggy literally turns around and says, that's good, but how do you explain that? And in the exact same way that the Chupacabra is just up there on like a higher surface, just looking down at them, you've then got the Abominable Snowman just looking down at them all growling. And it's like, okay, this is just deja vu. It's like, with the tagline of Zombie Island was this time they're real, and it's like, with this it could just be this time it's cold. And that's it.
See, to me, this is where I realised just how unnecessary Mingo was, because I was literally like, what? Everyone's here now? There's no one left. Like, who's it meant to be? Because there's this person's here, this person's here, this person's here. And it literally just was the last one that you think of because they were relatively irrelevant.
Yeah.
But the chase song that follows is, I think, my favourite, I want to say.
Yeah.
And the fact that the professor doesn't just take stuff like tied up, they like get involved in it, I think that adds a lot to the comedy, and also the tension of this scene. It's a little bit like too little too late, but to me I think this is the best like chase scene in the film. And then we get the obligatory avalanche that's caused by all the kind of shenanigans that happens. And that's alright, because I feel that in this type of setting, it'd be a bit odd if they didn't have that kind of typical avalanche scene. Don't quite know why Scooby decides to start yodeling on the top of his jump though, but we'll accept that. But one thing I was unsure about was the avalanche part of the plan? Like, is that what they were trying to do, or not? I guess not. But Shaggy and Scooby Doo proved to be very good snowboarders somehow.
Yeah, I thought that was funny.
Which is kind of weird, because you'd think that if they were good at snowboarding, they would have been good at, better at surfing in Aloha.
Yeah.
So, we finally get the reveal that it was Mingo all along. So again, Millie, you didn't really have a lot of positive things to say about the Mingo reveal, and I guess I don't want to say that it was obvious. Definitely the motive behind it was extremely obvious. But smASH, what were your initial thoughts when Mingo was first revealed?
So, I have to say that I had that like junior novelization book before the movie released, and so I actually read that and saw pictures within the book of who it was. So before I saw the movie, I actually knew already who it was. So watching the movie, it wasn't like a shock to me, honestly. I don't know. It's just a very like, oh yeah, it kind of like what Millie's been saying. Like, it's the last person that hasn't been on screen the last 40 minutes.
Yeah, I get that. And I don't know. I think because they're quite irrelevant, it like to a lot of people, it doesn't make too much of a difference. Like, it's not like a thing where we're meant to believe that a crime's been committed necessarily. But I do just think it sucks so much how it's Fred, Daphne, and Velma that are explaining this whole mystery. Because then that makes everything that Shaggy and Scooby has done like utterly irrelevant. Like, it would have been nice if maybe they were along the right tracks about, who did it, but they were like, but why? And then that's when Shaggy and Scooby could have gone, oh, well, we learned this about Mingo when she was talking about the DJ host on the way up here, and here's the signs that have been pointing to that. And that would have put it all together nicely.
We've seen that they've got the bravery to do the unmasking. In the last one, when it was the organised events on the pirate ship, they were just sat eating and taking masks off. Like, do you remember? I think I worded it a bit differently to that, but they were just sat there. The plate arrived. They lifted the lid off the top and just unmasked the person. So we saw progress there. They could have easily done it again.
I agree. They could have. And now they just kind of stretch things out a bit more. The Alphonse guy lives, I think, just because, one, they don't want to actually have someone dying in this movie. And two, it sets up this thing that they did with Loch Ness Monster as well, that, there could be a real one out there. But I would almost... I don't know, because we never ever hear Minga say if it was her that saved him or not. We're to assume not, but the silhouette looks exactly the same as the suit, so I guess it's up to interpretation.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do a lot, I feel like, with these more recent movies, and it basically is supposed to be a, kind of like the Loch Ness Monster, like, ooh, was that the real one?
Yeah. I don't know. I guess we got to assume it wasn't Minga, but the implications of a real abominable snowman is like...
Don't turn into Velma here, JayBee.
No, but what would happen? It's just a thing, innit? It's like having a polar bear that can stand. Just allow it, let it be. Unless it's hurting people, just let it sit down, let it sleep, don't disturb it. Unlike the Loch Ness Monster, where it's okay, if there's boats going in there every day, there's
Well, surely you could say that if those people climbing the mountain, then they're gonna get hurt.
Don't climb mountains. You shouldn't do that. It's not nice. It's not safe. It shouldn't happen.
And then I feel like it just sets it up for the happily ever after for Mingo, which is just I don't get why. And why go all the way back to Paris again? It took you long enough to get there the first time.
And then we find out Fred's phone's apparently still a thing. And now Fred's got on the wrong plane. And, okay.
And like I said, when he gets on the wrong plane and makes that call, I'm literally begging, come on, I don't want this again.
Am I right to assume, smASH, that no part of Goblin King takes place in the Amazon jungle?
Yeah, it doesn't at all. Okay. So while we're on the subject, though, when I initially watched this, I was like, "Oh, that's totally gonna be the next movie." They obviously are gonna be in the Amazon jungle for the next one. That's gotta be it. But no, actually, interestingly enough, Goblin King takes place purely in Coolsville.
Oh, okay, that's different.
That's making me a bit happier about that one. Because obviously following this and hearing that there's still going to be a part to be but no, I'm looking forward to it. So that concludes my notes for this movie. JayBee, does it conclude yours?
Again, just the question, was Shangri-La genuinely supernatural, or was that guy just believing that he was immortal because of it? I don't know. The movie doesn't know, but Shangri-La happens. And visual end credits, and that's where I found out about James Hong and Alfred Molina, so I will forever love these visual end credits, and I'm going to be very sad when they no longer happen. But I think they eventually come back, because I think they even do visual credits, at least, in Sword and the Scoob, but I think it's opening credits, but still, I'm in love with these visual end credits. And again, dedicated to Awayo Takamoto, which is a nice touch.
Yes.
And yeah, that concludes my notes on Chill Out Scooby Doo.
Okay, smASH, so is there anything you need to add, anything else that we should know before we head to verdicts?
Not really, just that I hope you guys are ready for these next two movies because this is the last kind of not supernatural movie, and then these next two movies are heavy supernatural. So hope you liked your unmaskings because they're not gonna happen in the next two movies.
I think I'm ready for that.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of things not being unmasked. Wear a mask.
Like Witches, Ghosts, and Zombie Island were two of my like big childhood ones, and you didn't need the unmasking there, right?
Even Cyber Chase, just have some kid get in trouble for something. Let the monster be real. Just allow it.
Okay, so heading to verdicts now. So as always, we're starting with JayBee. JayBee.
Oh,
Chill out, Scooby Doo. You said you didn't know.
I didn't.
You've got to know now.
No.
Smash or pass?
I did not know. I think I know. Well, I do know now. I just want to justify myself a little bit. I feel that Scooby Doo can be for everyone. It's not something I've stuck with my entire life, but it's been something that I've consistently had downloaded on things for nostalgia, and I've mentioned this before. Even when I was trying to be the opposite of who I am now, to like look cool at university, when I was trying to go out every night and stuff, I had Zombie Island on download, I had Monster of Mexico, shamefully in hindsight, on download. I was dipping in and out of, things like that, even back then. So it is something that stuck with me quite heavily. And I would forgive any Scooby-Doo movie, no matter what it does, as long as it isn't boring. Like, it can have the stupidest story, the worst voice cast, just as long as I'm not bored, it's just been a good time. But unfortunately with this, I was quite bored for a lot of the movie. So for that reason, with regret, I'm going to have to say that I would pass Chill Out Scooby-Doo. Oh. So, Milly, would you smash or pass Chill Out Scooby-Doo?
See, I feel like I'm very, perhaps strongly opinionated, and maybe that's not always a good thing. But I can honestly say that this is the most certain I've been in any verdict thus far, and that is that I want to pass this movie. Like, I just didn't like the form. Like, it's fine to deviate from the formula, but it needs to work. And for me, just having them apart all that time to then just split them even further apart, and I just didn't like it. And I know that Smash said earlier he fell asleep watching it. Like, I don't mind saying that we tried to watch this 3 days ago and I fell asleep, and we had to try and rewatch it before the podcast today, and I literally turned around to JayBee and said, I don't want to watch this. And he said, no, you have to watch it. I was like, I know. But it's the first one that I can just honestly say that it's just not for me. Like I said, I just want them to be together and like solving it together and have the normal characterizations back as well. It just all seemed a bit strange and just different. Maybe I just don't like different, but yeah, most certainly a pass for this movie. But of course, the opinion that matters most to us two especially is we like to know what Smash thinks. So what would you say to Chill Out Scooby Doo? Is it a smash or pass?
All right, time for my childhood story for this movie, because you get it every time.
Woo! Hey.
So this movie definitely was kind of more when I guess kind of was getting back into Scooby-Doo more, I'd say. Not that I ever really fell out, but it was kind of the movie that made me start to anticipate each movie's release again. And again, I, got the book, and so I was anticipating the movie and was really excited. I remember on, I believe on like Go-Gurt, which is, little yogurt in a tube type thing. There was like, they were promoting the movie on the Go-Gurt packages and stuff. Like, there was some pretty heavy promotional stuff for this movie, interestingly enough. And so I was anticipating it for a while, but they did a Cartoon Network premiere of it before they released it on DVD. Not like that big in advance, maybe like a week in advance or something. So it was a Friday night premiere on Cartoon Network. So me and my best friend at the time had a sleepover, and I recorded the premiere on a VHS, to have it until the DVD came out, and we watched the movie. We were, had to sit through all the commercials, anticipating what's happening next, and so I have big nostalgic feelings for this one, especially because I remember even taking this movie to school after it had been released and been like, look at the new Scooby Doo movie, look at the cool case, because it's all glittery and stuff, and I thought I was cool at that time, and people, kids maybe didn't think I was that cool at the time, but they got excited. They were like, ooh, new Scooby Doo movie, I didn't know they were still doing them, type of thing. And I remember one girl at the time was like, I'm gonna go see when it's gonna premiere next on TV so I can watch it and stuff. And I just remember for the longest time this movie was like super hyped in my life until Goblin King was coming out. Then obviously that one took over because it was the next new one. And but I have to say, nostalgia is the only thing that's saving this movie for me. But I had to rewatch it again because, again, I hadn't watched it for a hot minute, a couple years since. And so, as much as I have such big and fond memories with this movie, I have to say though too, I am quite disappointed with this movie because I think the Yeti is like such a cool villain and creature to have, but it just was not played out very well. In the end, I have to unfortunately say I will not be revisiting this movie as much as a lot of other ones. Will I rewatch this? Oh yeah, because it's Scooby Doo and I love Scooby Doo, but I definitely will put others in before this one. So yeah, I'm gonna have to pass this one as well.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, so admittedly,
that's alright.
I'm almost more relaxed after having heard you say that, because when we first started this and you were like, okay, this is a big nostalgia one, JayBee and I looked at each other like, oh no, because we both knew that watching this we'd had a bit of a nightmare where it was just like, I can't, I don't want to. So yeah, just hearing you say that's a little bit like, okay, I can breathe again now.
No, again, I'm so excited to see your guys' reaction to the next one because again, it's that the next one is so split between the community, and I keep saying that's super supernatural heavy, but I'm telling you, it is not like Zombie Island supernatural. It's not Witches Ghost supernatural. It is like every stereotypical Halloween thing you could think of mashed into one movie, and you're just like, okay. So I won't get into that yet, but again, just coming off this movie where we're like, I'm really interested to see if the next one you guys are gonna still be like, I'm struggling, or if you guys will be like, ooh, this rejuvenated me again,
I'm looking forward to finding out too, and as well for all the viewers, if you haven't watched, The Goblin King recently, or at all, if you like JayBee and I, go and check that out ready for next week. Of course, this always airs on a Saturday. We always have JayBee in the premiere, and yeah, it's really good, so make sure you watch that ready. We certainly will be doing. Are you excited, JayBee?
I am excited. I am really excited because, again, it's a new movie that I haven't seen before. It's all fresh to me, so I'm extremely happy.
Oh, fun little thing to bring up too. So Ben Ravencroft from Witch's Ghost wasn't he voiced by Jim Carrey, I believe?
Yeah.
He comes back in Goblin King. Not Ben Ravencroft, but Jim Carrey voices a prominent character in the next movie.
I guess that's awesome, and I like Tim Curry. Tim Curry is one of the guests at these cons that we've booked into, but they're not doing any autograph things. They're doing a photo, and it's £200, and it's like,
oh gosh,
nah man. But, you know, Tim Curry is just a legend. They were the original Pennywise, obviously Ben Ravencroft. So I am very much looking forward to hearing them again. Now, I guess if there's anything to wrap up on, I don't think we really have any Scoob community news unless you're aware of anything, smASH.
No, not at this moment.
I guess the only Scoob community news that we have really is kind of the announcements with you booking into the Comic-Con event.
Yeah, I guess that's something that people in the UK, if you want to take a note of that, or if you're elsewhere and you can travel, I mean, for one, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the UK is the best or safest place to travel to right now, even at the best of times. But if you are confident in traveling, if restrictions aren't a thing, we have, and this is just Scoob related, okay? We have, which one comes first? We have
Frank Welker, which will be in Edinburgh
on like the 9th of October.
Yeah, and then the following weekend.
And there's also Alicia Silverstone at that event. And then the following weekend, there's Matthew Lillard at Manchester, which is like 2 minutes away from us. Not to dox us or anything, but that's like 2 minutes away. So that's quite lucky. Luckily, that's not...
You can tell JayBee doesn't drive. It's actually 40 minutes away.
No, well, that's
You'd
not...
just fall asleep in the car.
I'm just saying that obviously, you know, with money being what it is right now, obviously we booked it in a while-ish ago. But like Scotland with Frank Welker, that's a hotel, that's a car or a train or whatever, that's the actual meeting and everything. So that's hefty. Manchester though...
Yeah,
I don't think that's not too much. So very, very fortunate, very lucky to do that. So if you're in the UK and you're looking for some good stuff, just go to that. Like you might find us there. I don't think you'll recognise us because I don't post any pictures of myself after I gained weight. So like just I don't know. It is what it is, isn't it? So it's fun.
I'm excited for you guys.
Thank you. Hopefully there's some more stuff happening. Like, I'm just freaking out right now because I think that I'm gonna have like the coolest moment because I want to get a collection of the Funko Pop signed, and it's like if I can bring like a Fred and Scooby one to Frank Welker, and then a Shaggy one to Matthew Lillard. It's like all we'd need to do is find like Grey Griffin somewhere.
Look, and I would like to point out that as your brother told you, you wouldn't get anywhere near Geller. There'd be a restraining order before you entered the country, so don't get your hopes up.
I mean, no, there would be a
His little brother
order.
made that very clear to him when he was telling him about his ambitions to get a full collection signed.
Look, I can meet Grey Griffin one day, or Amanda Seyfried, or Kate Melton. I'd be happy. I'd live life happily if that was the signature. And Velma, I don't know, I think Mindy Cohn would be nice, but also after watching a bit of Be Cool, I think Kate McCucci is alright as well. So I'm happy. I'm very happy. So I guess that does it for this. I guess last but not least, smASH, where can we find you on the Tinterwebs?
Yeah, you can find me over on Twitter and Instagram. I'm just at Ashton Hardy _, and obviously on YouTube, I'm smASH, which if you just type in Ashton Hardy, it should be one of the first ones that pop up.
Okay, great. Thank you. So again, that's where you can find those. JayBee, of course, amazing. We'll make sure all those links are in the description for you all as well. Thank you so much to everyone for listening, and remember to be prepared for the Goblin King next week.
Spooky vibes.
I'm hoping that I will be. No, I'm sure it's going to be amazing. I'm really excited. We hope you are too. So we'll see you all next week.
Hey.